to read it in every. Inez, I got 5. I'm good, right? Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February the 18th, 2026. This Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Here.
Present.
All right, just to reiterate, this is ordinance number 117-2026 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to make appropriations and provide current expenses for the daily operation of all municipal departments of the city of Cleveland for the fiscal year from January 1, 2026 until December 31, 2026. Madam Policy Team, if you guys can please read the statement.
Page 137, Department of Law, Chief Legal Counsel, Law Director Mark D. Griffin. Page 139, 2025 unaudited total salaries, $8,234,748. 2026 budgeted, $9,077,494. Page 140, 2025 unaudited total expenditures, $20,495,846. 2026 budgeted, $22,557,719. Page 141, 2025 staffing level, 89. 2026 budgeted, 103. Chair.
Thank you. Director, any opening statements?
To the Council President, no. I know Law has a presentation they want to run through like we did yesterday.
Please.
Council President, Mark Griffin, Law Director for the City of Cleveland. First of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about the Department of Law, what we do, and our budget going forward. And so I'm joined by my team, and I'll explain to them as we who they are and introduce them as we go forward. But I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to talk. So we are the Department of Law, and we operate both kind of as a shield and a sword for the city. We provide legal advice to the administrative branch, the legislative branch, and all of the boards and commissions. And so we defend the city in court. We draft legislation. We draft contracts. And we prosecute and litigate as needed. We also handle public records. So
If you can help him out.
No, I think it had a button that said off and on, so I think that might work better if I pushed it to on. Okay, great. So thank you. This is just about 5 slides, but I'm going to talk overall what we do and then talk about core initiatives and then staffing levels. So let me first introduce my team so that I want everyone to kind of have a feel for how we're structured and how we operate. So I'm joined today by Stephanie Melnick. She is our Chief Corporate Counsel. And so what that means is that she handles, through her sector and her section, legislation and contracts and the sorts of things that a corporation would handle. So if you have questions about, where is a contract, I would go up through her. But she is also joined today by Kevin Roberts, who is our House Counsel. Jerry Butler, who works in sustainability, Rich Berdovich, who works for real estate development and project developments as well. Then Michelle Comer is our Chief Counsel, and so she kind of handles special projects and the management of everything from the budget to personnel, and public records also reports up through her. So Michelle Comer, if we could say hello there. Elena Boop is our Chief Trial Counsel. She can't be here today because she is defending the city in a deposition as we speak. But she is joined today by J.R. Russell, who is one of our top trial lawyers, J.R. And then also within her sector would be Dave Roberts, who is our head of code enforcement, Bill Menzalora, and then Tiffany Fishbach is our employment attorney. We're also joined today by Aquila Jordan, our chief prosecutor. Aquila, great. So Aquila manages a team of 20 to 25 prosecutors, and every crime that occurs in the city of Cleveland gets charged by her office. So she has a very important role, of course, in terms of safety and in prosecutions, and she's physically located over at the Justice Center with her team. And then we're joined by Delonte Spencer Thomas, who are Chief Ethics Officer as well. Delonte, raise your hand. Delonte is the first Chief Ethics Officer that the City of Cleveland has had, and his responsibility is to provide ethics advice. He is also very involved in working with and kind of counseling our police oversight entities, the Community Police Commission in particular. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do, and I'm going to try to move through, fairly quickly. Core initiatives in terms of litigation. We've secured over $4 million in payments, either through lawsuits or collections, as the case may be. But we also spend a lot of time defending the city. The city is unfortunately more often a defendant than we are a plaintiff. They handle thousands of claims for subpoenas, litigation, labor, everything from a pothole that may have caused damage to unlawful incarceration cases to class action cases. In terms of development, our development cluster assists the economic development efforts with respect to real estate and development transactions. Some of the big things that they worked on this past year were the Bedrock development and the Erie Tower and Galleria redevelopment. Code enforcement. Happy to talk about code enforcement. That is absolutely one of the critical priorities that we have. And one of the things that we have tried to do broadly is to be much more aggressive with investor-owned properties. We've also seen a transition in terms of using the civil ticket process. So we have 2 different tracks, which would be to say, for homeowners, we're much more focused on civilian tickets because we don't want to criminalize poverty. With respect to investor-owned properties, we want to be aggressive and chase them down, whether they are in the South Pacific or in Scandinavia or right here at home. With respect to operations and sustainability, they work with public utilities. Clearly, Cleveland Public Power, Cleveland Division of Water are incredibly important gems in the crown of the city of Cleveland. A lot of that, and then they also work with Parks and Recreation. So many contract assignments, working with the Water Department, and then protecting Cleveland Public Power have been very important. Moving on just to our House Counsel section, that's Kevin Roberts. We have many Roberts here. So we have Dave Roberts and we have Kevin Roberts, and never the twain shall be confused. Kevin is our House Counsel. and he provides advice to boards and commissions, helps to draft legislation, works with contracts as well. Our public records section is run by Amy Huff. She handles close to 30,000 public records requests a year. And so just to give some perspective, the city of Washington, D.C., which is about 3 times our size, does a third of our public records requests. So they have about 11,000. We do 30,000. And Ms. Huff has done a great job with that. With respect to our criminal division, Prosecutor Jordan runs our criminal division, and obviously they're responsible for prosecuting misdemeanor crimes, but also for charging anything. One of the single biggest issues for the prosecutor's office this year has been the transition to central booking. We had very challenging negotiations with the county where they demanded that we expand our charging, and Prosecutor Jordan has done a fantastic job of transitioning to that. And I want to take an opportunity to say thank you to this council, because it was thanks to you that we were able to add prosecutor slots to handle the time period from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight, which was something that the county was insisting upon. So thank you to you for that support. Just as an example of how effective Prosecutor Jordan has been, we all know that we've had a terrible winter, and we've had snow that shut down all of the county facilities for different times. Prosecutor Jordan's team did not miss a single beat. They were required to, as part of the negotiation with the county, although state law requires a charging decision within 48 hours, and we were doing it within 36 hours, they insisted that most be done within 12 hours. Prosecutor Jordan's team, despite the snow, despite everything else being closed, did not miss a single prosecution deadline, charging deadline during that period of time. So thanks to her, greatly appreciate that. Ethics and accountability, Chief Ethics Officer Delonte Spencer Thomas is on call 24/7 for any questions about, can I do this, can I not do that, what can happen. He provides continuing legal education on ethics. I think he is one of the star ethics attorneys in the state of Ohio, and so we are lucky to have him. When he's not doing that, he also represents the city in the consent decree and works with the Community Police Commission. So, with respect to staffing, okay. We went up 5 because of the prosecutors that were required in order to meet the county's demand for central booking. So we've gone from 98 to 103. We do have some regular vacancies that we are continuing to try to fill. I will be completely transparent and say that the salaries that we pay make it challenging to fill some of those positions, but we are doing our best to do that. Okay, I promise you that I have this on the on position. I thought there was a final. Maybe that's the final. Okay. So let me just close by saying this, which is we love working for the city. No one here works for the money. We work because we're committed to public service and the jobs that we have. I think the work that the law department has from a lawyer perspective is the most interesting work I've seen in any department or any law office. And so that's one of the reasons that we're able to keep people. Let me also say more broadly, we're here today for budget. And I want to say thank you, because you are, of course, as Dean Polensek says, you have the power of the purse. So I want to thank you for supporting us, but I also want to say thank you for good management over the last 4 years. Because when we started, my recollection is there was a $60 million deficit, and today we're rolling over 90 million. And so that's a tribute to this city council for prudent management, but also for partnership with the mayor. And so, when we look at other institutions around Ohio, some of which are cutting back, we have had tremendous fiscal responsibility. We've seen our bond rating improve. And so I want to say thank you to you for more broadly as we get into the nitty-gritty and the details. But I want to say thank you to you for both the budget for the law department, but also for your leadership over the last 4 years.
All right, thank you. We're now going to questions, and I have a couple, and then I have Slife Star, Hudson, House Jones, Polisic. Okay, hold on. Let me get this in right order. Hold on 1 second, Director. House Jones. Polisic. Shaw. Harsh. All right. Okay, just a couple of things. If we could go into a line of questioning. And once again, we are focused on the budget. However, I know we did not have operational hearings, so I know there'll be a couple of questions. How many people do you have handling contracts?
So we have a House Counsel section, so some of those work on contracts as well as legislation. So we don't have a specific contracts department. I think that we have 5 attorneys that are focused primarily on contracts. I'm looking back at Kevin to see what our current headcount is. I think there's a vacancy there right now.
So they do contracts and legislation,
Yes.
or strictly contracts? Just by volume, do we know how?
And let me just say, so please let me also, we also have attorneys in different sections that will work on contracts. So for example, we have attorneys that report to Mr. Burdovich, who also handle contracts. So there's not a contracts, we're not organized quite that way.
So what I'm trying to understand is the volume of contracts that you get and how many staff people are dedicated to the contracts that you have. For example, how many, if you have 5, you said 5 or 6 workers, and how many pieces of legislation do we get a year? How many contracts do we get a year? And do we have enough is where I'm trying to go to with that.
So in 2025, we drafted approximately 756 contracts and 438 requests for legislation for introduction to City Council. So with respect to those issues, and let me kind of address a bigger issue. I think that we have enough attorneys at this time, but one of the issues happens is that, first of all, in order to get a contract done, there's a counterparty that needs to agree, and they don't always agree. But secondly, we have requirements under federal grants or others that certain things have to be provided. Sometimes it's proof of insurance, sometimes it's the corporate articles, sometimes it's other things. And so oftentimes projects come to the Department of Law where not all of those required pieces are put together. So there's a drafting piece to it, but then there's also a fulfillment of the requirements of it as well. So sometimes that issue is the delays occur before they get to us.
Well, I'm sure you're going to get a lot more questions about contracting. I think on this side, one of the critical issues that we really want to understand is, are we investing in enough to get dollars contracted and money out the door? And that's not just with council. I know that it's been with contractors and others that have been waiting for payment, and they always, the infamous statement is stuck in law.
I think we all got the bingo card, and stuck in law was not on the bingo card. So I would ask Mr. Castell to add that to next year's bingo card. But let me just say, it's a serious issue. So let me address a couple pieces of that. First, Mayor Bibb, when he came in, said, "Why do we have so much paper? This is ridiculous. So we need to move to DocuSign." That has largely sped things up. Secondly, I have open house hours every single week, so that if anyone has a contract that they believe is slow or stuck in law, my door is open for every single week after our cabinet meeting. People can come directly from our weekly cabinet to my office to get whatever they believe is unstuck to be unstuck. Let me address a couple points of that, because first of all, I recognize that it's a problem. We have to be better. We have to be more efficient. Sometimes that's because things are so complicated that the documents don't come to us in the right order, but people say, "Oh, I've sent it to law." Sometimes it is because law says no to the administration. And that is not always seen, but sometimes we say, you can't do it this way, you've got to do it a different way. So there absolutely are times when it is stuck in law because sometimes we've dropped the ball. That happens occasionally, not as much as people say. But then sometimes it's also because we say, you can't do it a particular way, you have to do it a different way.
Other contractual seems to be budgeted a little bit, well, a lot higher. And I know that I hear a lot to say trends, and the director says trends a lot. But in 2024, it was about $40,000 for other contractual. In 2025, you spent $13,000 and change unaudited. And in 2025 and 2026, you budgeted $100,000. Why such a high jump when the trends show clearly that you don't usually spend that high of an amount?
So to the council president, this is actually for document management and imaging. So this is a theme. I know we had a few divisions yesterday where we had an increase in cost because of that. So that's the reason.
So for future reference, most of the time, whenever we see that cost and that jump in cost, is because of document imaging to move from paper to to some kind of imaging to save the documents.
To the council president, that is a pattern, a general pattern. I don't want to blanket say that's the same for all divisions, but obviously modernization is a huge priority. So that is the reason for an increase in that cost across the city, but there may be other things in other divisions wrapped up in it.
And so we're looking
It
at,
would be good if we could to understand how much did we spend in modernization across the board, because I'm hearing the word modernization a lot, and I'm willing to bet if we start adding up those modernization upgrades, we probably can get into a little bit of a costly endeavor. I don't know if there's a way to calculate all that, but is there a way, if we could talk with our policy team, that it would be good to know how much overall in this budget we spent on modernization?
to the chair, your inquiry regards the other contractual services, is that right, for 100,000?
Yes.
Another expenditure there is we're moving to a matrix system to manage our litigation flow and to track cases as well. So that's also part of the other contractual. In addition, when we talk about document handling, that's part of it as well.
Okay. And Matrix is,
Matrix is a software program that is used by most other prosecutors' offices and public attorneys' offices in the state of Ohio. We are one of the last ones not to have adopted it. And so we have it in our civil side. We're adding it to our criminal side as well to manage that flow. But that's one part of it, and then the other document pieces as well. We have a system called iManage that keeps track of things. So, for example, when we draft a contract or a piece of legislation, our attorneys need to look at what's been done already so they don't recreate the wheel. So they need to be able to search the iManage system to look at, oh, we did a contract that was 75% like this before, I'm going to go to that. So iManage is one of our systems that also falls into that category.
okay. And just if you could, for our listening audience, tell us again how many pieces of legislation and how many contracts have you guys processed again?
Yeah, so we drafted approximately 756 contracts and reviewed approximately, we reviewed 1,058 for legal form and correctness. That's a little different than drafting. And then we prepared and processed 438 requests for legislation for introduction to City Council.
And just so that I can understand that the 6 or the 5 people that you have and you have one position unfilled, you believe that that is an adequate number in order to process contracts. How do you measure your performance on that? Is it that you look at how many days? I know that in the meeting yesterday, it says that you guys went from 6 weeks to 6 to 8 days to 6 to 8 weeks to 8 days to process contracts.
So a couple things. One is that number, I believe, has to do with when a document is ready to be signed. So I think that reflects how quickly it gets processed through the system once everything is there. In terms of keeping track of how quickly we manage, in the private sector, it's pretty easy because their KPI is how much money you're bringing in for the law firm. We don't have that for the public sector. So what we track is simply total numbers of documents, and we manage every single contract gets reviewed by the attorney who is processing it, but also his or her sector leader, depending on what the sector is. So they are in charge of managing things and try to push things through as efficiently as possible.
Okay. I have Charles Slife. I have Councilman Slife, Councilman Starr, Councilwoman Hudson, Councilwoman House Jones, Valencic, Davis, Shaw, Harsh. Is that right? Thank you.
That easy. Thank you, and let me start my clock because I know I talk too much. For my own benefit, I want to be clear. If I'm on page 141, which is the staffing, and you are budgeting for 103 total positions, there's leeway within all of the different sections that add up to 103 that you have, right? Like, we're really approving the 103, but the decision of if someone's a full-time versus an admin versus a professional, like that's a decision you're making kind of as your own internal policy, right?
Through the chair, my understanding is that the head count that's set by council is hard, but that I have flexibility within that to allocate between paralegals and attorneys and senior or junior attorneys.
Okay, so, and if I'm reading it correctly, my assumption is that I'm going to pick on Rich Berdovich because I used to work very closely with him when I had a previous job. He is a chief assistant director of law, correct?
Correct.
And then those who work in his cluster would be assistant directors of law.
Correct.
And I think this question of, to your point, Council President, about those who work on legislation versus those who work on contracts, my experience has always been that those aren't bifurcated as separate tasks. If anything, they're sort of combined, because when I worked in economic development, I would put in a request for legislation that would maybe go to Andrea Pasbeck, and then once the legislation was approved and now I'm doing a request for a contract, it would be logical to have that also go to Andrea Pasbeck because she had sort of the institutional knowledge of what we were trying to do. Is that still sort of the workflow?
Yes, that's right. So we don't have a specific contract section.
Okay. So, and I start there because if you look at staffing, so we're +5, but it's a little bit of math. We're first losing 4 positions in administrative support. We're basically foregoing the hiring of 2 clerks, eliminating the positions entirely, reducing chief clerk by 2, and holding legal secretary steady budget to budget. Is that sufficient to support the rest of the department? How was that decision made?
So, obviously I have to make strategic decisions about how to allocate resources given what council has approved in prior budgets. So let me say a couple things, which is as we become more technologically sufficient, our attorneys need less in terms of paralegals or secretaries. The need for legal secretaries is different today than it was 20 years ago. So my belief is that by moving over to attorneys, we get people who have higher skills and can be effective in different places. So yes, I believe that we are sufficient in that area.
Okay. Very understandable, and this is kind of beyond the context of this conversation, but I'm eliminating positions through attrition is obviously preferable to just eliminating positions and laying people off. As we use technology more, as technology expands, I want us just to be thoughtful. A data point that I was given years ago, so let's just assume it's true, was that there's actually more steel made in Cleveland today than at any point in history. It just takes 1/32 of the workforce. And I think a challenge that we're facing is we haven't figured out what to do with the other 31 people. And I don't want the city of Cleveland, which has historically been an opportunity to offer stable middle-class jobs with benefits in a community that is low income, to be washed away as we're able to theoretically move towards a workforce that is highly specialized and technical and requires advanced degrees. So I'm not criticizing the thing, but I think it's something taken to its logical conclusion. I think a lot of the challenges we're facing have been because we haven't figured out how to redeploy workers who have been affected by technology over generations. But that's obviously a bigger topic than what we're talking about here today. So I wanted to start with staffing, though, Council President, because we're losing 4 administrative support, we're losing a paraprofessional, but we're gaining 10 professionals, primarily as assistant prosecutors. So we only end up with a net +5. But I'm interested, given the conversations and that you've heard, our questions about the capacity for contracting, whether it exists as a standalone function or cohabitating with legislation. Is there a desire or an ability to, do we need to increase staff there, 1? And 2, could you talk about the decision to increase the headcount of prosecutors, +5 from last year's budget, +8 from, I'm assuming, the end of last year, and what those individuals would be focusing on specifically?
Through the chair, first and most importantly, the addition of headcounts from 98 to 103 was because Cuyahoga County told us that they were going to stop permitting us to provide uncharged suspects unless we added onto prosecutors that would cover the time period from 4 o'clock until midnight every night. So that increase in prosecutors was because we as a city do not want to be in the position of reopening a jail. And so that's the key piece to it. I think your observation about production of steel is exactly right, which is we've shifted in a society from manufacturing to services. And to the extent that that is applicable to legal services, I think what that means is we don't need people to file anymore because we have electronic files. But what we do need are people who are providing the services. So we're seeing that transition in the legal services market as well from, if you will, manufacturing to services. But in terms of being more efficient, the other technology that, of course, is transforming everything is artificial intelligence. And so there's a question about, can we use artificial intelligence to streamline the contracting process? And I can tell you that Case Western Reserve Law School is actually one of the first law schools in the country to require certification, and they have a contractor that comes in. I've reached out to them to train, to see whether we can have a training session where we can look at how AI can be used to expedite contracting. In the legal world, artificial intelligence can be very dangerous, particularly when it comes to litigation, because it hallucinates. But it looks as though there may be ways to use it effectively to be more efficient with contracting.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's I kind of back to the analogy. I understand, and honestly, with the rush to AI, sometimes I feel like I'm the only person who watched The Terminator. But the economic theory suggests that displaced workers will simply find another job, and that's not happened, I think, at scale. So I want us just to be mindful and think through how we need to, through Councilman Starr's committee and otherwise, not just decide that we're going to grow our functions and our GDP while sidelining a percentage of the workforce. 2 more quick things. I'm sorry, Council President, for taking up too much time. So we have 30 budgeted last year assistant directors of law, and we're going to hire 2, but we're actually reducing the total line item by 1 item. Would contracts and legislation move more efficiently if there were more assistant directors of law?
I think we will be fine. I think the issue is not so much what happens once it gets to the law department, but so frequently it's the third-party contractors who take a long time to send us their articles of incorporation or their insurance or other things. So I don't know that it would improve.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, if I could just add, so you'll notice that there's 9 vacancies, and as the director said, he has the flexibility to kind of move those around once the total head count's approved. So if there are needs in other areas, we still have a little wiggle room to get some new folks in there, to assist with the services.
Okay. Director, if I could remind you, please talk into your mic because the listening audience can't hear when you don't hold it up close. Thank you, but we heard you.
Yeah, gotcha. And so thank you. My final question actually to finance. If I, just as a back of napkin number, I'm not holding anyone to this, but if we were trying to compare, so there's obviously an increase in unaudited total salaries to budgeted total salaries because we're net increasing 5 positions total. But if I can't make an apples to apples comparison simply because of the 3% raise. If I were to increase the total salaries number 8234748 by 3%, that sort of would speak to last year's salaries at an equal level with what we're trying to, what I was trying to do is figure out, okay, subtract those numbers from each other, divide it by 5 positions, and try to understand a sense of like how many people are we actually hiring, what are they being paid, but I need to do a little bit of algebra there to accommodate the cost of living increase, right?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct. In pretty much every division across the city, we added the 3%, whether they were union or non-union, assuming those raises this year.
Okay, I only asking because I'll probably be doing that, especially when we get to departments that have maybe more than a +5, trying to understand how we can make a annual comparison. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have Councilman Starr, Councilwoman Hudson, House Jones.
Thank you, Council and Department of Law for coming here. Some of the questions I mainly have relating with some of the issues and challenges that we're dealing with in the city of Cleveland around code enforcement. So when I talk about code enforcement from the Department of Law, I know we did pass Residents First legislation, which has some different parameters and enforcement of the law to allow us to deal with some of the housing code issues that we have. So through the chair to the Director of Law, how many prosecutors are assigned to housing code enforcement, and is that number sufficient given the citation volume that we currently have in the city of Cleveland through the chair?
I believe we currently have 7 attorneys in our housing and code enforcement entity, although I don't have that immediately in front of me. I do believe that they are sufficient to handle the prosecutions. We prosecute all of the citations that we receive from building and housing, as well as some of those that we initiate on our own, depending on the matter.
Wait, so you have 7, you said, in total? That's
Let me ask Code Enforcement Chief Dave Roberts to join.
Through the chair to Mr. Starr. Yes, I have more than 7 attorneys, but I have 7 that are dedicated to prosecuting criminal cases in the housing court.
through the chair, how many cases was prosecuted in 2025?
Through the chair, 432 criminal complaints in housing court for failure to comply with building and housing orders.
You said 432?
Yes.
And through the chair to Mr. Starr, that's 432 first-degree misdemeanors for failing to comply with an order from the building department. That's our bread and butter. We do prosecute other types of cases, minor misdemeanor cases. We prosecute for the health department, for restaurants that don't have food licenses. We prosecute police tickets when the police officers write for a minor misdemeanor that relates to housing. So the total would be greater than 432 of the number of cases in court, but we measure it by the bread and butter first-degree misdemeanors.
Of that number that you just mentioned, when you talk about the prosecution and expediting it up to first-degree misdemeanor and things of that nature, can I put a request for our staff through the council president, a total amount of housing code violations that were issued within the last 3 years from 2022, 2023, 2024, make it 4 rather, 2025, to get an understanding of the actual outcomes of those violations and what was actually done regarding those. And of those numbers that you mentioned, how many of those were handled as civil citations? Through the chair.
Through the chair to Mr. Starr. The civil infractions, which are done by the Department of Building and Housing, do not go through the law department. The inspectors can simply decide there's going to be a civil ticket sent. Often they're sent in batches. For instance, landlords that don't register their properties as required by Residents First will find a whole set of them, 500 of them, and send 500 civil tickets. But that would be the Department of Building and Housing that manages that, because those are civil and they don't need to go into court to be effective.
So then how many was the total of criminal cases?
But,
400
Number? That's
through,
432?
through the chair, 432 misdemeanor criminal complaints.
Okay, so therefore, it start off as a civil citation through building and housing, and then the law department then determines if it needs to become a criminal case?
Through the chair to Mr. Starr. So, two things need to be distinguished. The violation notices are civil and administrative.
Right.
The civil tickets are actually different. They're like parking tickets. So if an inspector goes and he sees, for instance, a pile of debris at a rental property, he may decide, I'm just going to issue the $200 civil infraction. That landlord will learn that he can't leave piles of debris at his property. If I see that debris there later, I'll give him another civil infraction. Or he could decide, okay, something more is happening here. It's a neglected property. It has no dumpster, and that's why the tenants are throwing the debris in the back. So a $200 ticket is not going to help me here. So I'm going to give him the formal notice of violations that he needs to take care of the debris, and then follow that with criminal action in housing court. So the inspector has two routes to go. He could actually do them at the same time. You could do both at the same time.
So do you have any record of data that shows those type of infractions both at the same time? Because what I'm trying to get through to see, what do we have in place to hold these slum landlords in compliance of the law? Because what happens is, and what I've experienced the last 4 years, is I work with building and housing, get an inspector to go and look at some of these deplorable living conditions in public housing. Maybe a citation is written, and then next you know, I get another resident in the apartment complex right next door to it with the same similar issue. So if it's just me giving you a driving without a seatbelt ticket for everything, and we're not looking at the holistic problem, it's going to continue to be nothing but seatbelt tickets. So therefore, residents are not getting the needs of housing met. So my question more aligned is, what percentage of those total violations resulted in those criminal charges that was escalated from a civil ticket to actually going at the landlord and the owner of their property for how they are allowing deplorable living conditions to actually take place in their property? So within all the citation of the first degree misdemeanors, the 432 that was given out last year, do you have a breakdown of a tier that were directly in violation of housing code enforcement related to public housing? Do we have any number and data to say this is what's going on in our housing? Through the chair.
Through the chair to Mr. Starr. So we do track the results of the criminal cases, but we're going to look at a set of phases here. One of the problems is we'll give the notice to that out-of-state LLC landlord. They'll be summoned to court and they'll fail to appear. And then the court, if it determines they've been served and they needed to appear, will put them on what's called the corporate docket.
Mr. Roberts, could you talk into the microphone? Some of the council members said they can't hear you on this.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I will lean closer to the microphone. So some fail to appear, they go onto the corporate docket. They're subject to civil fines for the contempt for failing to appear, but that may never result in any actual prosecution of them. Some do appear, and then they generally plead no contest. We have very few trials because we have a strong case. And then those are then treated by the court depending on how they conduct themselves.
All right.
Some, if I could go on, some comply. That's the gold standard, right? The judge says, I'm ordering you to comply. If you don't comply, I'll punish you more. And they do comply. Or the threat of punishment is enough that they comply before they even come for sentencing. Unfortunately, some defy the court and don't comply, and they'll generally plead a lack of funds. So an LLC will say, we invested in Cleveland, we brought in $250,000, but we're not getting the rent stream we expected. We're not able to cover our debt, and so we're folding up. And this is a fundamental question of capitalism for our country, larger than any discussion today. But in those cases, the judge is often at a loss because you can punish that LLC to the extent of its ability to be fined, but if it is defaulting on its mortgages, it's paid all its money as profits to its owners, and it's now just folding up and refusing to comply, then the punishment is just added to all the other debts that that landlord is not paying. And then we need more creative solutions. And so I don't know if you want to,
Yep.
you were on a different topic. I don't know if you want me to go into that.
So we're definitely going to talk about that. I know we're going to schedule more
Okay.
opportunities to dive deeper into this. My thing is there anything in place that automatic escalate after a certain number of repeated violations? So if you have quite a few civil citations issued on a property, what is a certain magical number to automatically escalate to a criminal case for the law department? Do you have anything in place of that that's currently in place?
Through the chair to Mr. Starr, no, the building department would have policies for that, but there wouldn't be a fixed number. For instance, you don't give 3 civil tickets and then bump up. As my example, you might see that you need to go straight to the violation notice and the first degree prosecution. Or you might have a landlord who typically fails to cut his grass, but you hit him with those civil tickets and then he starts doing a better job. And he might, over the course of 5 years, get 3 civil tickets. And that might be enough to keep him on the straight and narrow to keep cutting the grass at the rental properties. So there's no fixed one, but your point is well taken. That's exactly the policy issue. We can't just keep giving civil tickets and expect that to work. We have to bump it up if it looks like it needs to be bumped up. And then if I could twist that around, some of those LLCs that refuse to come to court, we can reach their pocketbook with the civil tickets, because the civil tickets, if you do not pay them, they're still valid civil fines and they get assessed onto your taxes. So if it is a viable LLC and simply refuses to come in, civil tickets, one of which can be issued every day, can be the buildup. And we had a recent success where we sent an owner of about 200 rental properties a whole raft of civil tickets for not registering them, and they called the chief inspector and said, please, please don't do this to us. What's happening? And he said, you need to register your properties. You need to get your lead safe. I'll put you on a schedule. If you stay on the schedule, I won't give you more civil tickets.
Okay,
And so that was success without needing to go to court.
I see what you're saying. And through the council president, do we have a list of how many landlords had more than 10 violations last year? Do we have any record of that through the council president?
Through the chair, I think we could try to put that list together.
Can we make that list as a recommendation to get sent over?
And through the chair, I think one of the things that Chief Roberts is saying is that, you know, we have goals of compliance, we have goals of punishment, and we have goals of deterrence. And so for each individual housing unit, we make on a case-by-case basis the decision about what works. And so we don't want to criminalize grandma, we don't want to criminalize poverty, but it is the investor-owned units that are giving us particular difficulty where we go aggressively after them, because so often they don't remediate, they don't come into compliance. And so we want to send a message not just to the individual unit, but to others in the city of Cleveland that, you know, we've chased people down in the South Pacific to New York City, to wherever they go. We do our best to hold them accountable.
And I think that is great. And I would definitely like to make sure I get clarification and understanding, because one of the biggest challenges is the issues that have been going on in public housing for far too long. And what I mean by that, through the chair to the director, is we have things in place, but when it comes to public housing and making sure the owners are in compliance with the law of the city of Cleveland, as well as the code enforcement, that is not happening. And what I mean by that is we've been on emails about certain individual bad actors where I have had pictures, when I've had residents send me different information to try to get them in compliance, and we have not prosecuted or went after the owner yet. And my question is, do we have the staffing levels in place to actually convict these individuals who are bad actors that are treating residents, bad. I'm not talking about grandma. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about these 432 units. When I'm getting calls when 50 of them telling me that they don't have hot water. Some of them don't have heat. What are we doing? Are we just giving a citation? Or are we really holding them accountable? And if we do have rules and laws in place to enforce, I just want to know, what are we doing to get those individuals? And then also, I know you said you have 432 first-degree misdemeanors the last year, and you have 7 code enforcement prosecutors that are working on that. Is that an average? Is that a good number, or is that a low number, or do we have more work to do just to see, given the caseload that they may have? Is that where that number falls into regular service or regular trial as lawyers? Through the chair.
Through the chair, we have enough prosecutors, but I think you've touched on some important issues, and let me try to address. I think what you just said was absolutely on target. We are battling, first of all, an economy that has changed in a couple of different ways. One is we've moved from resident and owner-occupied housing stock to investor-owned housing stock. In the last 20 years, Wall Street has decided that buildings and homes where people live are just the same as a stock that you buy on the stock market. So we have this whole set of absent owners who aren't there, they're not living there. And so our code enforcement practices have to change, and we are changing to account for that. So the other piece that's happening with our economics is that we have gone from being the second richest metropolitan area in 1950 to the second poorest. So we're fighting that ocean as well. And without question, there is historical racism that has been a factor. So as we look at these things, I don't think that we can prosecute our way out of code violations, but we have to do what we can. And so there's the metaphor of the child who's walking along the beach with his father, and he sees 1 million starfish that are dying on the beach, and he starts throwing them in and to save their lives. And the father says, well, why are you doing that? You can't save all of them. And the child says, well, I saved that one. And so from a prosecutor's standpoint, we have to save everyone that we can and every house that we can. But we have an ocean that we're fighting against of economic change. And I think institutionalized bias in our economy. And so we have to partner with building and housing, but also community development to make a difference, and economic development as well. So we are doing everything we can to adapt our prosecution strategies to our new economy. I don't think we can prosecute our way out of the situation we're in.
Councilman, any last remarks?
Yep, and I'll wrap up, Council President. So therefore, I definitely want to look at, just for our staff to ask for data or information, since the passage of Resident First Law, how many charges have been filed for failure to register rental property, failure to register LLC with the Secretary of State, failure to certificate of disclosure, how many landlords been prosecuted specifying for using LLC structure to avoid accountability. And then also, I would like to make sure I ask for a request to the Council President, how often do Building and Housing and Law Department meet to review repeated offender? Also, can you send over, is there any data sharing system tracking violation across the departments? Are there administrative bottlenecks that's preventing criminal filings? And as I wrap up, Council President, making sure I get understanding, do we have any jurisdiction over HUD subsidized housing? And if they are not privy to the same laws, then how are they able to operate in our city if they don't have to follow our laws as well as HUD and federal guidelines? Through the Council President.
Through the chair to Mr. Starr. So there's 3 types of subsidized housing. The voucher program.
HCB.
The voucher program, yes, we can prosecute. That's just like any other landlord. So there's no protection there. Then there's project-based, where the developer has developed that project with a HUD subsidy. We can also prosecute them, just like a private owner. Then there's conventional public housing. And the conventional public housing we cannot prosecute. The federal government has immunity from our regulation, and they are the only source of regulating the so if we see that at a conventional CMHA housing that there's problems, all we can do is tell HUD, hey, this looks like a concern, but we cannot take them to court.
Policy team, do you have the follow-up request that he has?
Yeah, they told me, I'm gonna send over the questions that I have written down to them to make sure we do that, because when you look at the Shaker Apartments, owner has over 50 ongoing violations over the years. And if it's continued to be the same things and we're not lock steady with HUD as well as the federal government to make sure they do their code enforcement to be able to get them in compliance, we're going to continue to have the problems that is presented on the desk of council members to see why the city are not lock steady on going after these things. So I definitely will send a question over to our staff, council president, as well as to the law department so we can be able to get clarification on some of these answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for clarification, when you say conventional and non-conventional, when you're saying conventional, you mean traditional CMHA basically ran housing.
Correct.
When you say non-conventional, you mean when CMHA actually subcontracts with some other third-party entity, like, for example, the community builders or whoever runs Arbor Park, then that's non-conventional, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so then the Garden Valley fire would be non-conventional, whereas Longwood or Carver Park, or CMHA properties, would be conventional. Okay, so it'd be good to make sure that we delineate between that, because that helps describe a lot, because a lot of people in the listening public don't understand that. Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Nikki Hudson.
Thank you.
And then House Jones is on deck.
Thank you. Through the council president to the law director, I'd like to take a look at contractual services, in particular professional services. I see that in 2025, the unaudited amount is a little over $6.5 million, and it was budgeted for $4 million. Is the reason for that? Well, first let me ask, professional services, is that outside legal counsel?
So through the chair to the councilwoman, yes. And the reason that that's so high is because this year was a year where we, every 3 years, we needed to negotiate with the unions. So that was outside counsel needed specifically for union negotiations.
Did you use outside legal counsel for the lawsuit with the Browns and negotiating that situation?
Through the chair, yes, we did.
Do you have an amount for what was spent on outside legal counsel in dealing with the Browns?
Yes, through the date of the announcement of the settlement agreement, it was about 1.3 million. There is a little bit of ongoing litigation Mr. Kucinich has brought, and so there is some continuing expenditures there.
Okay, and it's striking to me that, it's consistently budgeted $4 million for outside legal counsel, which is, approximately half of the amount that you budget for salaries. The reason for having in-house counsel is because of how quickly billable hours can pile up. What are the situations that you use outside legal counsel?
Through the chair. The situations we use for outside legal counsel, first of all, are for if there is a conflict of interest. So there are ethical bars in some circumstances where we have to go to outside counsel. Secondly, we go if there is specialized legal talent or expertise in a particular area where we need that as well. So those are the primary reasons that we go to outside counsel.
I mean, for this amount to be consistently spent on outside legal counsel, wouldn't it make sense to kind of beef up your in-house team and spend that on salaries instead?
Through the chair, I am all in favor of raising salaries for in-house attorneys. But I do think that these are used in specific situations where we need the outside counsel. So sometimes it has to do with appellate work. We have appeals right now at the United States Supreme Court and at the Ohio Supreme Court, and so there is a unique skill set there. I think when it comes to negotiating with the NFL, that is the case also. And then a lot of it, as the finance director said, was labor negotiations. And that's also a specialized area where I think we've been well served.
I understand, regarding the NFL, that might not be needed on a year-by-year basis. However, union contracts, that's something that's recurring. Also, appellate work is also something that's recurring. Would you consider hiring, staff or training staff to have that be something that you would do in-house?
I certainly would consider it through the chair. Of course, we would absolutely consider it. But I think the United States Supreme Court is unusual. We're not there often. So, we do have an employment law department which handles your basic employer disputes, and they do a great job. But labor negotiation is also a separate piece, and for literally decades, we've had different law firms involved. And I think if you go back to the Mike White administration, the law firm of Duvin Khan did that, and then for decades after that, it was Ashton and Rich. And today we use IOSU for those labor negotiations. So when it comes to collective bargaining agreements, those are things that literally for 30, 40 years have been done by outside counsel.
I mean, I understand that that's how things have always been done, but perhaps it's something to look at. It's just, to me, you have a very talented legal team, and you mentioned that the struggle attracting more attorneys to your staff is partly salary. So, perhaps spending it on in-house counsel versus outside counsel is a path forward.
Through the chair, we will absolutely look at that. I'd be very happy to bring on more employment lawyers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones.
Good morning, through the chair, to our law director and team. So just a couple of questions. I wanted to look through. I know you talked about in the output metrics, the contracts that are legislated and drafted. When you were going through the presentation, did you give a number of how many contracts were executed on behalf of City Council?
Executed on behalf of City Council.
Yes.
So if we're looking at, I think, a casino or cap, when you mean on behalf of City Council, you're talking about casino funds or
Yes.
cap? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Discretionary and casino funds.
Yeah. So my understanding is that in 2025, we did 176 contracts either through casino, capital repair, or NEF. And so 176 last year is a significant increase from 2024, where we did 117. So that's about a 50% increase.
Right.
And that does not include CDBG projects either.
Okay. Well, what does it include? CDBG products.
That's a separate, there would be additional CDBG projects that would be included in that as well. So I just have the numbers for casino, capital repair, and the NEF funds.
Could we get the number for the CDBG?
Absolutely, through the chair, absolutely.
Do we know of these 176 contracts, what was the length of time it took to get those executed?
I don't have those in front of me.
Okay, through the chair, to the law department, when can we get the actual numbers of how long it takes to get the contracts? One part of the reason why I'm asking this question is because it is increasingly frustrating to get dollars into the hands of people, right? And I do not want to be patient anymore, and I'm not going to be patient anymore, and we are going to, for my sanity and I think for public accountability, understand a very clear process of what is happening with contracts. To this day, I still do not know what it takes to get a contract passed. So the other thing, do we have a written process for contracts? And I know someone has sent me a flow chart of things, but even that to me is not clear. Explicitly saying, I think it is necessary to understand the steps that it takes to do various contracts, listing out not only the department, the name of the individual and their role, the time it takes them, or in standard times, how long it should take them to do their portion of the contract and go from there. When we had our introductory section from council, yes, we were given a handout of sorts, but it still did not include specifically who is responsible for the contracts, because it is a lot of finger pointing. They said, she said. At this time, we just need very clear things, because again, there is a disconnect. I am frustrated. Community members are frustrated, and as a result, at this point, because we have this reimbursement model, like I've said, there is no one that Ward 8 can go to front the money for anything for the city of Cleveland. This is how bad it has gotten. So, how long will it take me to get that request? To understand the contracting process, who is responsible for doing it, the department that was responsible doing it, and the time it is supposed to take to get a contract. How long will it take for me to get that written down, and so that absolutely I can publicly share it with everyone? Because that's part of the issue. I can't even help support and guide partners because I don't know. And I don't think that's a very good determination or a good partnership as an elected official in my role, trying to allocate public resources to the public.
Through the chair to the councilwoman. First of all, you're right. We need to be faster. We need to move our contracts through more quickly. Please understand that every contract is going to be a little bit different. So what is required for one contract and what comes through one department may be different than a contract for another department. The contract flow chart, I think that was exchanged, I thought was pretty good.
It's not.
Okay. Through the chair.
No, you can hand me that. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna tell you why I don't. No. It was given during retreat. Let me tell you why it's not good. Okay. So let me tell you why I do not think it's good. Right. So you have this contract flow that you shared that talks about proposal intake. Right. How long does it take from the proposal intake to the proposal review? Who is responsible for the proposal review? It says law, council staff, and contracting department. How long does it take for each one of those divisions, law, council staff, contracting department, to actually do that? And who specifically is responsible for doing it? Then it goes to council sign-off. Who's responsible for that? And in what time frame? Then it goes to budget approval, the finance. How long does it take that, and who's responsible to sign off on it? Then it goes to legislative drafting. Who is responsible for that, and how long does it take? Legislative passage. Okay, who's responsible for that, and how long does it take? Contract drafting. Council staff delivers proposal and ordinance to the community development, economic development, or other contracting department or law. Who is responsible for that, and how long does that take? Contract certification. Who's responsible for that, and how long does it take? Contract certification in law. Who's responsible for that, and how long does it take? So if we think that this is good, this is the problem. We have two totally different standards of good. And this is not cutting it for me, and what I believe the public deserves when we talk about allocating public resources to the public. This has been one of the banes of my existence here in Cleveland City Council. And every time I have tried to work peaceably with contracting, law department, finance, whoever, it's everybody pointing the fingers. This is unacceptable. This is not how a professional, high-performing organization should operate, where you never can know who's responsible, and more importantly, who do you hold accountable for not delivering on behalf of the city of Cleveland and people who deserve resources. And many times, it ain't even a lot of money. From my perspective, a lot of times you're talking about less than $15,000. And it's taken years. That is ridiculous, and we all should be ashamed. We all hold this responsibility to say that this is good. This is not good. It is not. And people be like, oh, she always got an attitude. Absolutely. I'm wondering why other people don't have an attitude and expecting more of this organization. This is crazy. This is absolutely absurd. And if we have the law director that can say that this is good, we have a problem. This absolutely is not good, respectfully. So, I am going to ask, what is it going to take? How long is it going to take, Council President, to get this clearly articulated to a standard that I think everybody should deserve? Because with something like this, you do not know who's responsible. You do not know how long it takes. And for 4 years, for me to be asking, working with people, asking them, no one can give me a clear answer. And we cannot continue to operate this way. This is not good enough. And I do not care if people have attitudes, right? I have an attitude. Join the club. The people of Cleveland have an attitude, right? Because this is not good enough. And it's like, what would it take for us to get to a place of excellence? I do not understand that. And on top of that, like, I was in a meeting with you all a couple of months ago, and when it was talking about at a point where a lawyer signed off on a contract, and it was just like, well, I don't feel comfortable signing the contract. And I'm like, based on what standard? If we have clear objectives to say this is what's the intent of the legislation, no one cares about your feelings. Is it against the Constitution? No. Okay, well, you work that out on your own. But if it is not in disagreement with the legal intent, no one cares about your feelings. And I do not want to continue to fight about this. This is simple. This is basic. We have many more issues to get through, but this is not good. Respectfully, Law Director.
Director, did you have a statement?
No, you can.
All right.
All right. Please proceed, Director.
Through the chair to the Councilwoman. First of all, thank you. And I think one of the reasons that our system is so effective is the passion that each individual council person brings. So I want to say thank you, and I also want to say that we are trying to make consistent improvement in how we're doing it. So let me address a couple things. We can know who is responsible through our DocuSign process about where it is in the process. Each type of contract is going to have a different process. And so sometimes, let me give you an example. So sometimes there are HUD regulations where the person who we want to work with, and your point is absolutely right, that we want to get money to the people who need it, to our residents who need it. Sometimes there are federal regulations that require that person to provide income proof, so tax returns. And so we're bound and hamstrung by what the federal government requires us to do. So let me.
No.
Hold on.
Yeah. So sometimes.
Hold on, if everybody could. Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
Through the chair. Sometimes in administering programs with federal money, there are federal requirements that we have to follow. And so sometimes those relate to income eligibility and other things. So although it's said it's stuck in law, sometimes it's the case that we have to follow these pieces. So one of the things that I want to agree with you on is that we need to do a better job of moving things more quickly. I would also say that, first of all, our role as a law department is to make sure that we don't violate any laws, but to do it as quickly as possible. So that's why every week, if someone thinks that they have a contract that's stuck, my door is open.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through this. There's a lot of things when we talk about, even for contracting now, the city of Cleveland has been in the contracting business for years, for decades, for generations now. So for every different type of contract, before a contract even comes here, before we even execute on a contract, wouldn't it be nice if we had a list of written down requirements publicly available for every different type of contract that you need? So before we even start on this contracting process, publicly available, people can see. So if you know it's this type of contract, these are all the things that you need. And before we even start to accept contracts, council members and all, making sure that our partner has all of these things so that we can go through the contract. Again, the frustration that I have is that I consistently ask, well, what do you need? Nothing's publicly available. It's not written down. It's based on the whim of individuals that work here in this building. It is not a standard process. And this is one of the things where we continue to make excuses about why we don't and why we are not pushing things forward in an efficient and effective way. We don't prepare things for our contracts. Is there a case management system where, and this is a thing where I feel like a flow chart would actually help with actual individual's name. Is there a process for that flow chart that was listed? Is there a singular case management system where you can track the contract from that point A to point B in all the different 9 or 10 different ways? Is there one
Director.
system where you can go in
Director?
and see?
Yeah, through the chair, I hear what you're saying. I would submit this, which is a huge contract is different than a small contract. But I would also say this, which is I think that going from 117 contracts in 2024 to 176 shows that we are making progress. Not fast enough, but we're making progress. And I also want to take a moment to thank the legal staff from City Council because they're fantastic. Rachel and Jen and Tony Tell work really hard to try to find ways to get these things done, and we try to work with them. So your point, I think, is well taken that, yeah, you've gone from 117 to 176, but that's not good enough. So I hear you.
Okay, again, and I asked the question, on that flow chart, is there a singular case management system where anyone can look at any point in time to know what the status of a contract?
Is there a public-facing system? Is there anything?
Is there an internal system? Is there a public-facing system
There is an internal system called DocuSign for
that you can see
contracts.
from that?
Once they get to the process of getting
And
the
where does
contract.
that DocuSign start on that flow chart that you shared with me? Where would it start? At what point?
So, please understand, this is for council contracts, and so it may be a little bit different. It would be in the contract drafting
is it?
box.
Contract.
At least that's when it
Oh,
gets-
so that's one,
when it
2,
gets
3,
to
4,
law.
5, 6, 7. So that's 7 steps before we get. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No, I just this is my frustration, but that wasn't the only part. The other one, going to my next question, is
Councilwoman, just to let you know, I got you on overtime. I know.
okay.
that-
I'll come back. I'll come back.
No, if you want to come back on the list, you want to be back on the list?
Yeah, put me on the list. I'm
Okay,
not finished.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I have Councilman Michael Polensek.
Thank you.
Then Councilman Davis, Shaw Harsh, Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President, and honorable members, to the law director. On page 139, under other training and professional dues, there's been a steady increase there from 2023. Would you care to explain that a little bit?
139.
Yes.
I'm sorry, through the chair. Professional dues and subscript,
yes.
is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so a couple things. One is we have to pay for registration with the Ohio Supreme Court for all of our attorneys. They increased that recently, and so some of that reflects that increase. But the other piece that we are trying to do, they significantly increased it in 2025. So that's a part of it. But the other piece is that we're trying to make sure that our attorneys do have the training so that we don't have to hire outside counsel unnecessarily.
Okay. On page 140, under judgments, damages, and claims, if you could provide to us of the breakdown of the 5.5 million as it pertains to the claims and judgments we paid out in 2025.
So in 2025, you'll see that our actuals were significantly lower. So we usually budget about 5.5 million for a couple of reasons. One is plaintiffs' lawyers seem to think that whatever number we put down, they should get all of it. Okay. So we try to put a reasonable calculation, but we don't want people to think that they can get $10 million, $20 million from the city of Cleveland. We also aggressively defend every single case. So if you look at the difference between 2024 actual and 2025 actual, you'll see that's $3.5 million less. Okay. So we have the 5.5 million there, I think, for prudent and responsible budgeting. But Look, I think I'm known for being cheap and tighter than bark on a tree. When it comes to the monitors' bills, I'm looking at their hotel bills and everything. And when it comes to paying out a penny of taxpayer dollars, I keep it pretty tight.
Okay. So you'll provide that to us, the claims and judgments. Then on the bottom,
Can I,
under
through the
reserve-
chair, just for clarification, you're asking for our future budget or for 2025?
2025, what was paid out?
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Under revenues, explain the dip there. First, there was an increase, then a dip, now a big increase. Explain what that is, the revenues that are coming into the law.
Sure. So these are fines and forfeitures. So, for example, if there is a penalty or a contract piece that could go there. But what this number actually does not include is, for example, the money that we've received in opioid funds. It doesn't include money that goes directly to departments or for money that we use outside counsel to collect. So we're actually at about $4 million, depending on how you count. But these are funds that go into our law department budget. We actually recover a lot more for the city as a whole, but it just doesn't go into the law department's budget.
So in 2025 unaudited, it was 214,000.
We had a big case. I think that was our bridge case.
Okay, so now you're expecting it to drop down to $7,100.
Yes.
Okay. And again, you'll provide to us 2025 what that was, the total revenue.
Yes.
On page 141, executive assistant to the mayor, who is that?
I believe that's Dr. Lee Anderson.
That's Lee Anderson. Okay. Okay, and then under assistant prosecutors, again, you're recommending that we, at the end of actual 2025, we had 12, and you're suggesting we go to 20.
So some of those at the end of the year were vacancies that we needed to fill, and then the others are the 5 that we are required by the county in order to handle central booking.
Okay. I just want to follow up on some of my colleagues here. I think, and I want to thank Dave Roberts for, because I think he came on board. There was a big improvement from what it was. But here's the frustration. I think you heard a frustration around the table. The observation from the majority of us here at the table and our citizens is that the city is not aggressive on code enforcement. When I was going door to door, I heard it repeatedly. Councilman, what's going on with this abandoned house next door that's been sitting here for years and years and years? The abandoned bowling alley off of Euclid Avenue, sitting there abandoned for, I don't know, someone said 10 years, which is a new area I picked up. I look at all these properties and I keep asking myself, residents and council members keep turning them in, but they never seem to get into housing court. So there is a breakdown between building and housing, and we haven't had building and housing up yet, but we're going to do that. But I would say, our chair of the committee is on another assignment today. But at some point, we're going to have a real deep discussion with law and building and housing as to what are we going to do. We know the issues with the LLCs. We know the issues with the outside companies. And a lot of us have been experiencing LLCs from outside of the country coming in, buying a property. But, one of the things that Judge Pianka, and I wrote this down, that he repeatedly recommended and asked for of the city was the use of spot eminent domain and then receivership. He repeatedly asked the previous administration to strongly consider that, to fund that action, and yet it's never been funded. So we can sit here and do, Assistant Law Director Roberts, we can sit here and we can complain repeatedly about properties. But you know what we have to do, in my opinion? We got to seize the properties. We can't be playing games around here anymore. It's 2026. I don't get it for the life of me. As a senior member, I have witnessed the demise of Cleveland's East Side in front of my very eyes because of a lack of an aggressive policy through one administration after another. And so here we are again. We're faced with 18,000 abandoned lots in the city where there were once structures that have been torn down. We've spent somewhere, from what I'm estimating, and I'm going to ask that at some point, we spent somewhere around $100 million on demolition. And what do we got to show for it? The poorest city in the country, second in childhood poverty. We're on every negative list that you can think of. And yet the members, we go to our neighborhood meetings. It's the number one, as I said to the mayor during the transmittal, number one complaint in my office every day, like it was yesterday. Number one complaint, building and housing. The abandoned structures, the houses that are in disrepair, the action that is not being taken by the city. And our citizens are saying, it's 2026, something's got to give here. You know, and the other thing that Judge Bianca did, when indigent people were cited, I never saw him once punish a family that was poor, an indigent family, an elderly person. I know, Dave, you're shaking your head. He tried to get them into programs to help them. So this whole mindset that some people had, well, if you cite people, you're going to hurt poor people. No, there was an effort to help people. Because what we're seeing, and I think that it's been repeated around this table, the majority of the housing stock today is not owner-occupied in the city of Cleveland. And we're being descended upon by people coming in with cash, buying up our homes, raising rents, not putting any money in them. And nothing ever happens here. So, you know, I'm hoping in 2026, with the 15 members that we have here today, the growing frustration that we have, we want an aggressive law department with regard to absentee landlords. We want an aggressive position with the LLCs. We want an aggressive position, unfortunately, with some people who, who think that having 2 junk cars on blocks is a sign of wealth, okay, which it isn't, in their yard. Something's got to give here. So what I'm hoping, and we said again during the mayor's little transmittal, good news, bad news, whatever the news, I want the honest news for once. I want somebody to tell me, what are we going to do to get this right? Tell me, what do we have to do? Do we have to hire 5 more frickin' attorneys? What do we got to do to have a prosecution that is aggressive than people who own property in our city know that the party's over? That it's over. We can't get away with this stuff in Cleveland anymore. We're going to have to go elsewhere. But until that day comes, we're all going to see and experience what I constantly see on Cleveland's East Side. Abandonment, disrepair, and then you hear these families, no water, no heat. I'm dealing with people who live in a house with no water. The landlord won't fix the water. The furnaces aren't working. Those SOBs never wind up in court. Why is that? Someone's going to have to tell me that, because I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. I'm not happy with this law department. I'm not happy with the building and housing department. And then we have people who are struggling, and then I get some little old lady that they go out and they pop her because, you know what, she's low-hanging fruit. That's what it is. They go after the low-hanging fruit. They don't go after the people they got to work on. That's what it's all about here. I'm tired of seeing these elderly folks. I got a guy 2 weeks ago. He's pulls permits to work on his house. The weather is so bad, as you see. He has no railings on his steps. An inspector shows up and cites him. It's freaking cold. It's free. He can't put the railings on his steps. They nail him, a responsible homeowner. And then I got an absentee landowner on the street on Lakeshore Boulevard at corner of East Park. The building looks like hell. Why aren't they in court? I mean, I'm just expressing what I hear around the table and what I'm in my own words. So, Mr. Chairman, the law director and the director of building and housing and whoever's got to get it together in 2026. We're all fed up with this crap. We've seen it. I'm disgusted by it. I pay my taxes. I'm paying more taxes today, property taxes, than ever before in my life in this city. And every day I feel I'm getting less for it, especially when it comes to schools and everything else. So I'm going to leave it at that. The committee is going to have to take this up. We're going to have to get people in here. If you know what? When I was council president, I used the power. I subpoenaed people. I put them under oath where they couldn't lie at the table. If that's what we have to do to get the news out of people, the straight news out of the attorneys and out of the building and housing department, I have no problem going that route. It's over. It's got to be over. 2026, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belabor the point. I'm fed up. I'm sick of looking at this crap all over my neighborhood, all over the east side. And if the law director wants to comment, he can, but I think you know where I'm at. I'm done. I'm done with this crap. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director.
Through the chair to the councilman, and then I'll ask Law Code Chief Dave Roberts to add in. First of all, Judge Pianka is legendary, and I think he was incredibly effective. And as part of our respect for Judge Pianka and also how he ran his court, we were very happy to bring on Dave Roberts, who worked for Judge Pianka for a number of years, and Judge Pianka called Dave the Hammer Roberts. So that's the kind of direction and attitude that we want in code enforcement. I think that is being seen in a couple of areas. One is with respect to Shaker Boulevard, we got the largest penalty in the history of the city of Cleveland for that. We've also done things that are extraordinary in terms of using receivership to try to go after places that are not paying. And then, right now we're fighting over the Steiner properties where we've done something extraordinary there as well, which is to enter appearances and filing lis pendens to let people know that those properties in the Shaker area have to be taken care of, have to be fixed up. So we are being more aggressive than I think anyone has seen in years, but we need to do better.
How many receiverships have you done?
I think we're on 3 now.
3.
Yeah.
Whoopee.
So through the chair, through the chair, part of the problem with receiverships is we need the funding, and so we've pushed them hard as well, and we've gone after the largest landowners or property owners that we have. But I would ask Chief Roberts to talk a little bit about our approach to code enforcement.
Chief.
Through the chair to Mr. Polensik. Yes, I agree with most of what you're saying. And so I want it all to work right. And I've studied it, and I could sit with you and we could talk about each phase of what the limiting factors are on each phase. So a poor inspector decision about what to spend his time on, a neglect to return to a problem property after an inspector goes and he can't find contact with the owner, and then he neglects to do anything to follow up with that. The fact that Director Martin would probably tell you, I don't have enough inspectors, get me more inspectors, I'll get you more cases. And so I'd be happy to sit with you and talk about all that. And receivership, yes, it is a problem because you can't get a receiver unless they're funded. There's plenty of people that'll be your receiver. They get a receiver fee out of it. But you need the funding because you've got to spend the money, then you recover it through a lien. I went to a continuing legal education, and there was a guy from California, Cupertino, and they use receivership all the time because all of their land is worth so much money that it's not hard for them to get the financing, and then they always recover the money. But in Cleveland, you might do a receivership, repair a house, and not recover. So you're taking a big risk. You need public subsidy money. But Judge Bianchi used to talk about that. Why doesn't the city have a fund to fund receivers?
Well, then we're in budget hearings. That's what we're here for. We've got cash balances.
Councilman, I got to make sure that we
Yes.
stay on track. I do like the idea if we want to look at that as a
Okay.
budget item.
Anyway.
I ask any budget reconciliation items to go through those chairs. So
Well,
between
I will.
Councilwoman Santana and Councilman Harsh, if there's any budget reconciliations or anybody has any recommendations.
But
And if you want to go back on,
No,
Councilman.
I'll make a recommendation when we're at that point. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. Councilman Austin Davis, and then Councilman Tom May Shaw.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the director, hey, thank you for joining us today. I'm learning a lot. And just in case you hadn't heard, the 3 new council members all have law degrees, so you're in trouble, I think.
I welcome it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, like really on that point, I graduated law school. I made certain choices, but with almost 200 grand in law school debt. And so when you talk about the starting salaries, some of them are really hard to pay for your law school debt. Even thinking through public loan forgiveness programs and et cetera, it can be tough. So if there's a real play here to raise starting salaries for our staff attorneys, I think this is something we should strongly explore. And I'll just highlight, for folks who don't know, Jones Day across the street, their starting salaries are 225 grand a year, which is 3 times what our starting salaries are here for our law department. And you got to pay for it by working for the devil at Jones Day, but that's a tough choice. It's a really stark, as I understand it, after COVID and our K-shaped recovery.
Welcome to your first news story, Mr. Davis.
What about that? Oh, Jones Day's the devil?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I say with love. I say with love.
We gotta have a little humor.
There's
Go
books written about this.
Go ahead, sir. You got you.
They know what they're doing. It's tough to make a choice like that, and they're just across the street. So let's find ways to support our staff attorneys here. I hear my colleagues' real concerns about the timeliness of contracts, and I'll bring up a different angle too. I think there's an increased complexity in legal practice and public legal practice today. Director, you mentioned Bedrock. I think of also the West Side Market, complicated structuring deal, navigating all the federal requirements, particularly over the last 4 years, but going forward, engaging just with the complexities of the modern economy. Director, could you talk a little bit about how you're preparing staff to do more and do harder work going forward?
Through the chair, thank you, Councilman. Let me address a couple things. First of all, it comes from the training. So we are increasing our professional training so that can happen. Secondly, it's the exploration of artificial intelligence. Third, it is the implementation of DocuSign as well so that we can move contracts through more quickly. Just briefly, I think the question was how long does it take for contracts to be handled? And 45 days is the average turnaround time from the submittal of the request to the law department to final execution. So that is part of it as well. But we are seeing more and more issues that did not exist before because of the speed of technology and the speed of change. So we have to implement these resources also to do that. I do want to react a little bit to the councilman's recognition of salaries and to say this actually for the sacrifices that every one of you have made, which is that no one at this table would be here if you didn't care about your wards and your departments. And so I appreciate that the questioning here has been hot, but I just want to say to all the council folk that what you do is so important, and I respect it. And so, if you're not mad about something, you're probably in the wrong job. So I don't have a problem with that at all. And so I want to say thank you to Councilman Polensek and Councilwoman House Jones in particular for expressing their views. So yes, we are trying to transition with respect to technology, with respect to training, and increased use of technology ourselves.
It's through the chair. I appreciate that. And I'll keep highlighting how really complicated and how it feels like the law department's been pushing to do more novel and creative solutions to really complicated problems. I'm going to keep coming back to the West Side Market and the legal mechanism that oversees the public property but still allows us to receive private contributions. That was hard, and I'd love to see more of those kinds of things going forward. And so the more that we can support that kind of work, let us know.
Thank you, Councilman.
I'll also echo my, through the chair, colleague Mike Polensek's comments about receivership. Do you have a comment, Director? I'm sorry.
Only if we're going to go to receivership, which is we would love to do more, but we need to have the resources to do that.
Understood. And through the chair, I think of my own neighborhoods in Ward 7 near West Side. There are some high-dollar homes that have been in Ohio City that have been bombed out that are ripe for seizure by a public entity or a nonprofit if only the funds were there to upfront some of this cost. But we will make money on these kind of seizures in the long term. It's just going to take a second. This is, in some ways an advantage of the Near West Side, but one of the complicating features, again, is the money there's no source for it. So my attitude is, who has more money than the local nonprofits or the CDCs is the city of Cleveland. It seems like we as the city should be able to provide this kind of money. Single-family homes don't, receivership doesn't have to be only large-scale multifamilies. There's a whole sliding scale to discuss here. So is this something we can work on? I don't know how much money we would need.
Through the chair, absolutely, we are absolutely interested in that.
Through the chair, we may need to have longer conversations about what that looks like, what the numbers are, and what our objectives are. I imagine there's going to be more of a pilot than a full-scale, multi-million-dollar investment up front. But my neighborhood would benefit.
If we could, because I think there seems to be an appetite around the table for that. We have an idea of what it should look like for a receivership fund.
Great.
However, it would be good for you and Mr. Roberts to kind of give us some estimates, maybe built off of what you've used for the Shaker LLCs right now. But I do think that there is a big appetite from council, if I'm looking around the table, for to try to get more receivers, and it means we're going to have to get more dollars. So,
thank you, Chair. And to build on that point, Chair, we have a new housing court judge too, who I look forward to meeting soon, who I think, yes, will be great to work with on this kind of stuff.
hopefully I think she'll be at the table.
Great. Through the chair, a couple other things. One is, I think, an undersold element of the law department's value to the city is cost avoidance. It's preventing bad contracts. It's avoiding litigation. It's reducing settlement sizes. Do you have any quantification of that kind of activity?
We don't. We've won a number of big cases in particular where those have been successful. And in terms of settlement, I'm thinking about some cases in particular, but I'd rather not disclose those. With all due respect, in part because the lawyers on the other side would get a call from their clients about why did you settle it so cheaply. So with all due respect, I think I don't have those numbers.
That makes sense, but all the more reason to support the important work to keep our costs down. Because I think, building on my colleague Chris Harsh's point yesterday about revenue-generating departments here at the city, I think the law department could be conceived of that in many ways, keeps costs down and sues and successfully brings in money through suits, which I appreciate Councilman Polensik's point about where is that appearing on our budget sheets. I know we win cases, we get money. I actually, this is a question, where does that money appear in the budget?
Through the chair, for example, for the opioids, we bring in about $1 million a year. I think it was $900,000 last year. And that goes directly to the Department of Health because the terms of the opioid settlements were that they were required for opioid remediation or law enforcement. And so that's the case also with different cases as well. They typically go to the department's accounts.
Interesting. I'd be curious, and maybe this is a request for the policy team, to see a compendium, a master list of the successes of our law department, the money you brought in.
Yeah. And last year was about $4.3 million, I believe. So.
Great job. Two last quick questions is, what's the U.S. Supreme Court case?
Sure. We currently have a Supreme Court case involving the Cleveland Division of Water regarding whether or not we can place liens in order to collect unpaid amounts of money. And so that is currently pending. Actually, it's both on a petition for certiorari, and at the same time it's proceeding in Judge Oliver's courtroom as well.
Oh, okay. I'm familiar with that case. Thank you for reminding me. And then my very last question is, whatever happened to the Kia lawsuit? That seemed like a good idea.
So Kia is still pending, and one of the things that I want to thank this body for is an amendment to our nuisance law, because we are now refiling in that case as well. And then the other significant case that we have is for insulin price fixing. So that's pending in New Jersey as well. And as you probably unfortunately know, nothing is quick with litigation. It always takes longer than you want.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Director. I yield to the chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Shaw.
Good morning. Appreciate everyone's time being here. I'm gonna go quickly. Councilman Davis actually hit a lot of the points I was gonna hit, including the encouragement, through the chair to the director for increased salaries for assistant law director one positions. I see that, the average is closer to 89, 90,000, but the mean, when you take out some of the outliers, is actually closer to $85,000. And once again, if we want to retain and attract good talent, we're going to need to actually pay them for it. And I absolutely am supportive of increasing the budget to reflect closer to 90, 95 pay range for that position so that we can reflect some of these changes and the bigger risks taking that we want to do. So just a note on that. And then secondly, I just wanted to note through the chair to who I've known before as Magistrate Roberts when I was a housing attorney at Legal Aid, and now seeing you here, so that's pretty cool. And I really appreciate the work that the department has put in on the code enforcement piece, and also encouraging, being in support of what Councilman Polensek and Davis have already pointed out with taking big hits on the receivership things. Personally, as our illustrious mayor has said, if we get sued, we get sued. We know these LLCs are taking these big risks and they're breaking rules, and we're gonna have to take some different out-of-the-box approaches to hold them accountable. Along with that, I just wanted to ask about the, actually, I'm gonna hold off on these questions. I'll follow up with an email afterwards. I know we're short on time here, so I'll yield.
Through the chair to the councilman, I am always available by email. Typically each year I've circulated a telephone list of everyone in the law department so that you can reach out to us directly. But Councilman Shaw, I also want to say thank you to you for reaching out to the law department to sit down and have a meeting with me and my team. And I would say to everyone else at the table that I will be reaching out to you because we would like to talk and make sure that we have communications, and I want to hear what you have to say. So it shouldn't just be once a year, and I think that's on me to reach out to you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Shaw. I have Councilman Harsh, Jones, House Jones, Conwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, we have to go back to contracting because I share in Councilwoman House Jones's absolute frustration and just dismay at how this works. So, Mr. President, I introduced a piece of legislation in 2024. It was 1197, and it passed with unanimous support, and it was tenants' rights. It was $1 million to help tenants organize, to help them access resources. It was passed by this body on January 27th, 2025, and the funds have still not been dispersed. That is 387 days. For 387 days, I've had people calling me.
Could you repeat that, Councilman?
Yes, Mr. President, we passed a piece of legislation on January 27th, 2025 to distribute $1 million through the United Way, a very reputable, high-performing organization that works great with us. And it's been 387 days since that was passed by this body, and those funds have not been dispersed. So my specific question through the chair to the director: in which column of the staffing levels on page 141 are the additions to the staff that will help us process contracts faster? Is this a assistant director of law job? Is this a assistant prosecutor job? Is this, who in your department on this page actually physically works on these contracts when they get here in the morning?
Through the chair to the councilman, they would be assistant directors of law, and then they'd be supervised as well by their section attorney. So please understand what we do is we draft the contracts, and then with respect to disbursement, that may come later. But here's what I would say to you. This is the first that I've heard about this tenant issue, and obviously it seems significant.
I'm sorry, that's just not fair. We had an email conversation last week, you and I, about this very ordinance.
Then my apologies.
We're on email,
because
right?
Could make sure everything runs through the chair if we could, okay?
Through the chair. Then let's talk afterwards, because I don't recall that particular contract, but certainly if it hasn't been dispersed yet, that's something that we should work on.
That is just to let you know, because Councilman Harsh and myself put that together, and that was around tenants' rights. And it was supposed to go to United Way, and then it was about 3 or 4 other organizations. And I'll be honest with you, my apologies to those organizations, because I get focused on other things, and they just made me aware yesterday, or actually this morning, that that contract hasn't been executed yet. So, Councilman Harsh, please proceed.
So thank you, Mr. President, because yeah, we've recently talked about this. I only see 2 additions to the Assistant Director of Law in this budget book, and I see 8 additions to the Assistant Prosecutors. And I don't think prosecutors are going to draft contracts. So my question through the chair is, are we allocating our resources in this budget most effectively to help us get contracts out the door?
So through the chair, and sorry, I just wanted to, when you told me that I had received the emails, I wanted to kind of go back and look at it. So,
Okay.
so I apologize. I was
No, that's fine. That's fair.
I was briefly distracted, and so yeah. So my understanding is that Director Barrett responded that the contract was sent back to the division for them to correct the funding source on the paperwork, and that he's asked OBM to assist them in moving this through the process as quickly as possible. I anticipate that this will be completed by the middle of next week.
Yes, this was, you responded on January 28th, which was last week, or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, recently.
Yeah, so and then from my office, Chief Melnick responded as well on February 13th, indicating that it was out for certification. And then once the contract gets certified, it comes to law to sign for form and correctness.
Yeah.
Afterwards, the contract is fully executed, and a CD can initiate disbursements.
And can I put just real quick, because the councilman's point, this is where I think Councilwoman House Jones was trying to double down. Is this a contracting department that might have taken a certain amount of time in order to get that back to you guys because it wasn't a proper funding source? And I apologize. I think part of this is what everybody's trying to get to. And to be
Absolutely.
honest with you, Director, I hate to say this, but I'm glad you're the lightning rod today and not me.
Yeah.
Because that's everybody's frustrated with me, and I'm trying to tell them there's other complications to this. So it'd be helpful to understand that.
And please don't let stylistic differences hide the fact that we are all on this
Yes.
side of the table absolutely enraged by the processes that we have inherited in this building.
Please proceed, Councilman, while they're looking that up.
So my question is this, through the chair, and I understand that you're all working on this, and I appreciate that, but I see 8 more prosecutors, which I'm not against, but I only see 2 more people in the Assistant Director of Law who sound like the people that actually do the daily work of processing contracts.
Yeah.
And 2, if there's 27 and it's not getting done, if there's 27 people in that department, it takes a year, I don't think 29 is going to speed up that process. And I'm wondering if we're allocating our resources in the Department of Law most effectively in order to help us do the work of the people.
So with respect to the prosecutors, again, those were required by our negotiation with the county. Understood that. But secondly, I'm looking through this, and your response with Law Chief Melnick, you appropriately said, look, everybody here is from law. We're the finance folks. So my understanding is that simply needs to be certified from OBM accounts in the director's office. But your bigger question is how do we get contracts more quickly? And so what we've tried to do is assign them to the people who have substantive knowledge. And as we discussed at the beginning, we don't have a specific contracts department. We have them for, if you're doing real estate, that would be in Bertovich. If you're doing sustainability, that would be in Chief Butler's piece as well. But our average is 45 days. So, but we have to do better.
Through the chair, to make sure I understand the answer, you're saying that it's the Assistant Director of Law 1. Those are the people that work on contracts.
As do Assistant Directors of Law 2. Correct.
Okay. Through the chair, to the chief, you've been here. I think this is your 5th year. I think you came in. You're one of the initial folks that came in with the mayor. Do you have more or less people working in the law department today than when you got here?
We have more overall.
Okay, and through the chair, do you know off the top of your head what that total increase in staffing is?
I think we've gone from about 90 to 105.
Well, I mean, you've got 89 on staff, the 2025 actual. So through the chair, was 89 the actual when you got here?
That sounds about right. And remember, some are, I think you're looking at general fund budget, so some may also be on utilities budget as well.
Okay, so through the chair, it kind of sounds like we've added none. If we started at 89 and we're still at 89.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. President, this is like, I think the source of frustration, right? We have a really difficult time in being accountable to the public, but not responsible for any of the operations of the city. And Councilman Polensek beats this horse to death every single year for good reason, We hold the purse strings and we say, here's the money, go do it. And then you come back next year and it's not done. And we say, well, here's the money, go hire people. And you say, yeah, we're going to do that. And you come back the next year and it's not done. It's been 5 years of this, right? And we're at the same staffing levels. And we all know that people are complicated. Life is hard. And when people have complications, people problems usually need people solutions. So we need folks that can work on this stuff. And it is mind-numbing to us why we don't get these things done. And I'm held accountable to a public that wants answers. And all I can tell them is, I'm sorry, I gave them the money. We gave them the money. We all gave them the money. And that's all we got. I mean, I find it hard to believe. I know the people that work here are good. I know the people that work in this city are good-hearted. Their nature is appropriate for the work. And I know there's more of them out there in the wilds. We need to find them, Director. I'm sorry. This is, when you walk up to the cliff, you get to decide whether you're going to jump off of it or stand and stare over it. And I'm staring over the cliff. I don't know what to do. And I don't have a parachute and I don't have a plane. So I just have to stare at it. And this is the frustration. So I don't know. I'm rambling. I apologize. Some people are trying to push me. And then somebody else can come up and stare at the cliff for a while. But we need to build land, I guess.
Mr. Bear.
I'm sorry, this is rambling. I have no question anymore.
Mr.
I'm
Bear,
trying to figure out who
last remark.
Through the chair to the councilman, I just want to provide an update. While we were having this conversation, I checked with my team as to where that United Way contract is. So it's sitting with the division. I've asked them to immediately follow up with them and make sure that we get that funding source ASAP. I would encourage any member of council that has a contract that's held up, that's already been through law, to contact me. If there's some place in finance, especially with DocuSign these days, or with the division, we have the ability to go back and look and see where it's stuck. So I would encourage that. This particular contract isn't necessarily a law issue.
So, but I'm so through the chair, if the flow chart that Councilwoman House Jones was referencing earlier today is the correct flow chart, then it bounces back and forth the law a lot. And I would think that the person that shepherds the contract through from beginning to end, once we pass it, is going to be somebody in the law department. And I'm going to ask again that this body consider increasing the number of people that we have in directors in this department, even though I feel frustrated that we've done this every single year to no result. And I understand it's a back and forth, but people need to do this work. We're not going to AI our way into, I don't think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and I love the days that I'm wrong because I learn something new every time I'm wrong. But I have a hunch that this is going to require people. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I'll stop.
All right, thank you. I have Councilman, I'm
Just-
sorry, please proceed.
Just on that point, through the chair, in 2022, they only had 78 full-time people.
Okay, that's wonderful to know. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, Councilman Joe Jones and then Councilwoman House Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you can put me down again. First of all, I'd like to start out by so much to cover. The first one is, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say thank you for you and your department and the hard work that you do and sometimes don't get credit for. And you can sit at this table a lot of times and get beat up. But some of the work that you do has been outstanding. So I just wanted to take this opportunity before I go into talking about all the issues, to first start out by saying thank you. And also, thank you for your disposition as a human being sitting here at this table to take the fire and then still have a positive attitude. A lot of people can't be up under the fire all the time and be able to be cool, calm, collected like you are. So I am impressed by it. So what I want to say before I start into what I want to talk about here is a couple of things. And we always talk about, when we sit here at this body, sometimes we'll talk about it, but it's not something we will practice. It's called transparency. transparency. Open transparency. The flow of what we do here at this table is public information. And that public information should always be available to the public. And so, starting with that premises, Mr. Chairman, to the director, we're talking about contracts. Now, and you've heard all of the colleagues around the table, some of the explosions that happened yesterday is frustration on this side of the table as it relates to not being able to help one's citizens. And this one of the major reasons why we're elected into public office is to be able to feel the issues and problems of our people, and then yet at the same time be able to craft programs as well as legislation to protect the interest of the people that we truly fundamentally represent. So when we come down here to this council, it is our hope that we have an administration that will work with us to help us be able to resolve some of the daunting problems and issues and life quality issues of the citizens we represent. And so we have a responsibility, some of us who are new here and some of us who are old here. We have two sides that we deal with. We deal with the people that we deal with fundamentally on the council side in terms of staff, and then we also deal with the administration side in terms of being able to work on multiple projects. So when I come here and I say thank you, I thank you because I know a lot of things that you've already done, some of the stuff that you haven't even talked about here in your presentation. And I think that the people who are in the law department do a wonderful job. And so I just want to take this opportunity to praise the work that you do.
Thank you.
And the hours that you do put in, and the time that you do take, and for those who fundamentally care about the jobs that they have. And we've heard just right now about the opportunity of being able to pay people and how people are not even fundamentally paid. Now, I've been a person that's sat at this table and always talked about paying people their worth and their value. And I think it's important, and I think our colleague, our new member Davis, brought this whole point out about how people are not paid. And I've known people in the law department who talked about leaving the law department because they wasn't paid enough and they was overworked. So I do appreciate the work that you all do. And then here's one of the reasons why I appreciate that. We've had a property on Miles Avenue, property 15025 Miles Avenue, property 16634 Miles Avenue, and property 16700 Miles Avenue. Those have been eyesores in my neighborhood for over 50 years. And I've been complaining about those properties since I was a newborn, becoming a new council member in 1998 in this body. And then it was last year that we had a Mr. Owens who worked with me because I had already brought these projects here to building and housing to Sally Martin, whom did what she had to do. But for whatever reason, the law department helped to push this and get these buildings torn down. So on behalf of the citizens of First Ward, because these have been such a long-standing eyesore in our neighborhood, a lot of our people have been appreciative of those buildings coming down. Our offices have been receiving a lot of calls about that, thanking us about those projects. So I wanted to pass along the love to you guys for helping us to get those buildings down. Now, I do have an ongoing issue with the property at 17621 Harvard Avenue. And I know that if Ray Pianca was alive, he would be helping me to resolve this issue right now as a judge. So I'm hoping that the new judge that's coming along will catch up to speed and understand the fundamentals. But Ray Pianca was a little bit different from all the other judges is because he was a council member sitting here at this body. So he understood the problems of people and what they went through. And in doing so, it gave him great credibility and, as some of the younger generation says, street creds and being a great judge. And so what I would suggest here is that this property here, 17621 Harvard Avenue, is a garbage disposal property. It's put in our neighborhood. I've complained about it. I brought it to the previous judge's attention, or it has been brought to the previous judge's attention. It's been brought to the law department's attention. It has also been brought to Sally Martin's attention, and it still hasn't been dealt with. And I don't know anything about its disposition, but I would ask that the law department please get here. They have garbage trucks, they have U-Hauls, and I'm probably sure at sometimes, and I've sent you some photos, those are not the worst photos, but there's times when there, Mr. Chairman, there has been at least 60 to 80 cubic yards of debris. And they use it to sift through it. It has been a nightmare for all the residents around it. They have made makeshift, they've turned their driveway parts of it into gravel. I'm quite sure they don't have permits to do that. And they have some powerful benefactor that seems to protect them. So
Councilman,
I would ask,
if we
Mr.
could, I want
Chairman,
to make sure we help get your issues resolved. If there's key issues, could we resolve them? But I want to make sure we get some budget questions if we could.
I am. These are budgets, but I want to hit this miscellaneous because this is all about the thank you. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So go ahead, Mr.
Through the chair, so thank you. We will look at 17621 Harvard Avenue, and I'll get back to you about it tomorrow.
Actually, he gave you
with the
4
latest.
properties, and please.
No, three of those, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
3 of them have been demolished, and I was thanking
Thank you,
for it.
please.
And then the South Miles one is, so it'll be 2 properties, is 17005 South Miles. And then I want to get to the contracts because I need to kind of understand, and maybe you can define this here because I know there's more than just one contract. I know I've had problems with contracts from our local development corporation contracts being able to be certified in a timely way. And then I know that we have contracts that come from this part of the council. And I just want to, and I'm not saying this to be mean in any kind of way, but I always see a difference between those people who have money and power and those who don't, or those who are public servants as we're sitting here across the table. We sat here about maybe, I don't know, last year or so, and we had the millionaires coming for us, and they needed to have $20 million. And I'm quite sure all them contracts were passed and processed in no time. I ain't heard anything about it, other than the fact that they asked us for $20 million, and they got their $20 million. And they asked for the Browns to be demolition and got those contracts. So what I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is that we also handle council the same way. We should be a priority. It's already been stated earlier in the presentations that we are your partner and that we have worked together and that the city has benefited financially because of our good stewardship. So I would ask, in terms of that good stewardship and partnership, that we process this a little bit faster because it has been a bane in the side of council and has caused a lot of frustration on this side of the table getting our contracts done. So now with that being said, can you define those contracts? What all do you do with that? Because you stated here in the budget.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what your question is, so perhaps when you say define.
You have different contracts, so do you have them in categories? Do you break them down? How does that process work when we process a contract here at this table, or we process a contract for a CDC, or how does that work?
Through the chair. So the answer to that is we have different sections that deal with different contracts. And even within a section, so for example, if you're going to sustainability, they may have contracts for one aspect or different contracts for another. So typically, you'll have collective bargaining agreements. You'll have land development contracts that'll go through, our real estate section. So the answer is they go through the different departments. A lot of community development contracts will have different programs, so each program will have a slightly different contract.
I see. So then so I'm glad you told me it's different sections. So who are the people who handle the contracts for community development, for local development corporations?
So local development corporations would go through Rich Berdovich for the most
You
part.
could talk into the microphone, Director.
So for development contracts, those would generally go through Rich Berdovich.
His name is Rich who?
Berdovich, Bertovich.
Okay. Do you want to invite him to the table, Mr. Chairman, if he's speaking, because I can't hear him?
Director has it, let him director.
Yeah, so here's what I'd like to do, which is let's meet afterwards and let's go through the contracts because I want to make sure that your contracts are handled and we'll meet with Mr. Burdovich.
So we got Mr. Rich Burdovich that deals with development corporations, correct? Mr. Chairman to Director?
Yes, through the chair. And the other thing that I would do again this year is I'll circulate a list of every one of my chiefs with their direct dial number so that if you have an issue that deals with, the airport, you might call Ms. Pasbeck. If you have an issue that deals with Cleveland Public Power, you might call Chief Butler. So I will circulate again a list of direct dial numbers for everyone in my department.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Chairman, to the Director, so in terms of Rich dealing with development corporations, who deals with the council contracts?
George Peters deals with many of them. And when you say a council contract, I assume you're talking about the casino, the capital repair, or the NEF contracts.
That's correct.
Yep.
Is it anyone else other than George Peters?
Well, certainly Rich is involved also, and then sometimes Stephanie Melnick is sometimes involved.
Stephanie Melnick.
Yeah, Melnyk.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Chairman, to the Director, over the space, talking about contracts, over the space of a year, how many contracts do you handle from out of City Council?
Well, 176 from the casino, capital, and NEF funds, but those don't include CDBG numbers. So I'd have to get separately the number of CDBG.
So we don't know about the CDBG, but we do know about these.
Yes. So so for example, for casino, there were 63 contracts last year. For capital repairs, there were 23, and out of the NEF funds, there were 90.
Mr. Chairman, records request. I don't know if our staff is listening. Like to have for the last 4 years all contracts out of Cleveland City Council that are going for the NEF contracts or any of the other contracts. Talking about open transparency.
Yeah, through the chair, we will certainly try to find those for you. I think we don't organize them that way.
We do have them on a digital system I'm aware of.
I don't know that they're tagged as city council contracts.
So if we could work together and you can give me the digital file, I can show you where it's at.
Let's try to figure it out.
All right. So I would request for the 176 contracts that we would have, just for clarification, each year out of City Council for the last 4 years to be made available, digital. Those are the contracts I would like to have. And here's why. And let me give you some reasons why that is. Because I know some people's eyebrows are standing up. The issue is that we have two cities that have formed here right now. We have those who have and those who have not. And in some areas, you can clearly see the differences in the quality of life as well as the conditions that people are living in. Like, for an example, I gave you the garbage dump system that's right dead smack in our neighborhood that I've been complaining about for the last 4 years, actually, and nothing has happened to it. Technically speaking, 5 years. And so what I would like to see is what are we doing different on the west side of town, the central part of town, the south side of town, the north side of town, and the east and west. I want to be able to know what programs are working because in this case, Mr. Chairman, to the Director, when we talk about these programs, and this is where it confounds me a lot, most of these programs or contracts that are coming out of City Hall are boilerplate contracts. So they shouldn't take so much time, some of them, because they're still a contract that we've already done before. It's still the same thing. So for me, I would like to really fundamentally wrap my head around these contracts and understand them a little bit more and do a deeper dive. And then at the same time, if there's programs that's working on the west side that I can bring over to the east side to help my people, then I should be able to have that access and not reinvent the wheel. Just use that same contract and put that program over into the east side of the city of Cleveland that can fundamentally help people.
Through the chair to the councilman. So first of all, thank you. First of all, you started with saying thank you and some of the criticisms. I would just say this, which is from my perspective, I think everyone here is coming from a place of caring about their ward. So I'm not offended at all that people are at a high volume. I do want to push back on a couple things. One is you mentioned the last 4 years, and so in looking at in 2022 there were 69 contracts. This year there are 176. So I appreciate that they're not fast enough, but I would ask some acknowledgement that we've gone from 69 to 176 per year. So we are moving.
Thank you.
We are.
So thank you. No, I acknowledge that from the beginning that you're
If we
doing
could
a
let
great
him-
work,
Which
Mr. Chairman, to the director.
Which is to say, we still need to do better. And the other point that I would say on the exchange that I just had with Councilman Harsh, that's an example of a contract that's back with the division. So I say this with some humor that our city motto is stuck in law. And one of my frustrations, I think, is that that's often what people say, but then I think that contract is an example where it's not stuck in law. And so I would ask, when people say, oh, it's stuck in law, I want to push back on that because many times it is not. So let's get together. We will talk about 17621 Harvard and 17005 South Miles, and we'll talk about the contracts. 4 years of contracts, we'll see what we can do on that.
We've done it before.
Councilman, if I could,
Mr. Chairman?
if we, I'll put you back. You said you wanted to come
So
back.
my
but
time up?
Your time is up, yes,
All
sir.
right.
And then we'll go to Councilwoman House Jones, Councilman Conwell Gray.
Yes, good morning. Still, so going back to, I just wanted to make sure that we are clear through the chair to the law director. Going back, how long will it actually take us to get, at least from your portion, a written, kind of written flow that includes people and timelines of how long in a typical way? We know a lot of things happen. How long will that take to get you from your department?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I'm not sure how to answer that question because, again, each contract is going to be slightly different. I think that we can get you big picture. And again, the average is 45 days, but what you're asking for is a broken out, itemized piece per department. I don't know how we would do that, but I will see what I can do.
Through the chair to the director, what do you mean? Can you explain to me? You don't know how we're going to do that. So
Sure.
we have this list, and this is to. What do you mean you do not? Tell me what is the part that you do not know of?
Sure, because contracts get assigned based upon expertise
Okay.
of the lawyer, the topic, but also what is the bandwidth of a particular attorney. So if it's a standard contract, that might go to the attorney that simply has the most time available. If it's a specialized contract, that might go to a particular person.
Okay.
So those are decided based upon what we think is the most efficient way to get that done. If it's someone who's previously been involved in the project or that type of work, that will go through a lawyer to continue with his or her expertise in that area rather than reinvent the wheel with a new lawyer.
Okay, through the chair to the law director. So what I am specifically requesting is, even from what you said, the specialized things, the specialized categories of contracts versus the normal. How about this? Let me ask this question. This is what I request. For the 176 contracts that Cleveland City Council did, can we have categories from this 176 contracts? So can we break down the different types of requests that were made, and from there come up with categories that can identify the person that was responsible, the time that it would actually take to execute a contract, so we can create a flow from there. Because again, this 45 days, at least from this part, we have to do better, and I really want to know, how do we hold people accountable to things? And you can't hold people accountable when you do not know what they do and how long it's taking them to do it. And even understanding people's bandwidths, right? To understand that if somebody's bandwidth is a week compared to someone else's bandwidth, which is a month, there's a problem. And we need to be able to add support. And right now, I don't know whose bandwidth is a week, and I don't know whose bandwidth is a month or a year. And so this is why I am going to ask, so based on this, how long will it take for us to categorize these 176 contracts that Cleveland City Council has already done to identify what the categories are and to develop a process flow based on the 176 contracts that were done last year.
Yeah, we will, through the chair, we will try to get that to you as soon as possible.
What is as soon as possible? Can you give a timeline through the chair to the law director?
Through the chair, without digging deeply into the 176, I can't give you that answer, and I'm not gonna make up an answer. I'm gonna tell you that I don't know.
Okay, so through the chair to the law director, thinking through how long will it take you to know?
We will try to get you the list that you're requesting in 30 days.
Okay. All right, thank you. And so in addition to that, so while we have the 30 days with the law department, we'll see if we can work 30 days with Cleveland City Council and the varying departments to actually get up some real specified times based on this 176 that were done in 2025, come up with a baseline of categories, departments that are responsible, the individuals that are responsible with that, and the time that it would take for them to do their portion based on where they are in the contracting process. So I just wanted to be clear on my request. The other thing is we're going to briefly to liquor licenses. Is there, through the chair to the law director, is there a written process of how we address liquor licenses?
So first of all, code enforcement handles liquor enforcement. Dave Robertson in particular. Dennis Butler from our office is typically assigned to handle liquor cases. So I guess I would defer to Chief Roberts with respect to how we handle it. But here's what happens, which is, we work with the city council person and handle whether there's going to be an objection or not, and then we will file our objections as needed with Ohio Liquor Control Board. And frankly, we've had some important successes this past year. The Daiquiri Bar, for example, was a problem that we were able to close. Councilman McCormick's not here today, obviously, because he's stepped down. But Chief Roberts and Dennis Butler handle our liquor control issues.
Roberts.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I'm actually going to defer this. I began just short of 3 years ago. At that point, code enforcement didn't do liquor. It was in a different section. And Kevin Roberts, the other Roberts, understands it very well. He trained my guy, Dennis Butler, to do it, but I'm not going to be able to give you a good answer. So if I could ask Kevin to come up.
Let me just, I'm going to, if you don't mind, for the sake of time, let me tell you in my observation. So let me ask you, last year, how many liquor licenses were revoked in the city of Cleveland?
I don't know.
Through the chair to the law department team, how many liquor licenses were rejected?
Through the chair to councilman, I don't know how many were revoked.
Okay, well, if we could put that, that's a question to the staff. Can we find out how many liquor licenses were actually rejected in the city of Cleveland? Through the chair to the law team, let me, go ahead.
Through the chair, we handled 160 liquor permit hearings and requests last year.
You said you handled what?
Yeah, we handled 160 liquor permit hearings and requests. I don't have immediately in front of me how many of those were approved or rejected.
Right, so let me just clarification through the chair to the law department. When you talk about 160 permits and you handled it, if you can expound, what does that actually mean?
It means that we represented we represented the city in either a hearing or a request. So that could mean filing documents that would either typically oppose a liquor transfer or appearing in front of a hearing before the Liquor Board of Control. So for example, the Daiquiri Bar was a full day hearing, and then there were appeals as well from that. So it, again, it may depend upon whether it's simply a filing or whether it's actually a hearing.
Okay, so that would be a request. If you can actually send and share with us what were the 160, actions that you took. Were they hearings? Were they paper filings? And then from there can let us know which ones actually resulted in someone losing their liquor license. Based on my experience in the 4 years, a request is that for this process, we actually, again, need to have a written procedure. One of the things that I found out is when I ask about these liquor licenses come in front of me, There's no written record regarding building and housing. There's no written record regarding occupancy, even of a space being utilized. There's no written record regarding public health, any violations, or anything that would specifically for a troubled liquor license, anything that will position the city of Cleveland to actually have enforcement actions. And so I believe that we should actually need to have a standardized process when it comes to liquor licenses in particular, just all around. If you have a standard process, then it will better equip the city for, in the event there is a troubled place, we would actually be positioned to do it. I've been a part of liquor licenses where in one moment I'm like, oh, this place has terrible, service when it comes to the uncleanliness, things of that nature. And then next thing you know, their attorney was like, well, they passed the health inspection. And I'm like, how, where? So, or in a case where I had a liquor license where the place that the liquor license was being transferred to didn't even have an occupancy license. And so I'm just like, how is this even coming in front of me? And so again, my request is that we have to have like a baseline standard checklist where it's not just a random council person like myself just happen to go to all these departments like that. Those things should be organized within the administration if we're talking about liquor licenses. And again, it's one of those things when we talk about standards, there's nothing written down for a standard for liquor licenses. And I would like to know what would it take for us to get a written procedure of how the city of Cleveland will address liquor licenses so that when a council person like myself is moved to make a decision one way or the other, it's not based on feelings and opinions. It's actually based upon the actual facts and whether all the necessary permits and things of that nature are up to date and accurate to be able to give a complete picture. Is that possible?
I'm not sure I understand your request.
Is it possible to actually have a standard process for liquor licenses as it relates to understanding occupancy of the place, the inspections when it comes to building and housing, the inspections as it relates to public health, and even licensing assessments, because I believe there is something that is required of a liquor permit holder as it becomes to licensing assessments. And because it's a variety of different departments and divisions, having some standard, at least checklist of some sort, could be helpful in helping the city of Cleveland be standardized.
So thank you, Councilwoman. Yes, we will put together for you a list of the laws and rules that affect liquor licenses, and then the procedures for opposing them or not opposing them, as well as what the policies and procedures are with respect to litigating those cases before the Liquor Control Board.
Okay, and through the chair to the law director, how long do you think that would take?
We will try to get this to you in 30 days.
Okay, thank you very much. And then, people talked about the contractual services as it relates to the law department. I'm going to end there, and then I will circle back in 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Every year, we sit back, and I just mentioned to my colleague, Chris Harsh, and I kind of know what Councilmember Mike Polisic is going to say, and Councilwoman House, and we talk about the inefficiencies and the contracts and why it takes so long, and cost of labor that we have so many, and if you hire more people, does that really make it's going to go out the door because of the culture? So we talk about these things, and then we pass the budget, and then a certain council member know that we talk about these issues and concerns, Mr. President, and then she doesn't vote for it because she knows it's going to stay business as usual. So I am frustrated, and through the chair to the director, in the county, they didn't have these kind of issues and concerns, and they would get contracts out. Because I even did my fatherhood group through the county. It got out just like that. But in the city, it takes so long, and I am so frustrated. But the residents, as it was mentioned by a certain council member, you know who people blame? They don't know you, Director Mark.
They go to their council person.
Yeah, and they beat us up badly. And sometimes you could go into the store to get a loaf of bread, just a loaf of bread, or some water, something like this. You're right, you're in there for 2 hours. And they jump on us, and even when people run against us for office, they blame us in debates and everything because the people see that it's not getting done. And that's not fair. And we talk about it every single year. We pass your budget, you say you're going to do it, and that culture stays the same. So I don't know if hiring new people, I don't know, do I want to vote for it? And hiring new people is going to change it. You got to manage it. You have to manage it through the chair to the director. You have to make people work. You have to do it. I'm not going to rehash everything. They said everything that I want to say because I said it last year and the year after that and ever since 2001. And not just with you, going all the way back to Mayor Jane Campbell. So I don't know how to get a chance. I'm frustrated. I tried to get a $50,000 grant back in August through the law department. And guess what? It's still there. It's still there. I talked with you about it, Council President, and you know what I'm talking about because I wanted to do some code enforcement in my new ward. And I'm going to have to do it myself. I just told my assistant, we'll ride through the neighborhood. I'll do my own code enforcement because I can't get that $50,000 through the law department. That's money just sitting there that could be used for my residents. And this is what you got to think about. And everybody at this table, my residents, they're your boss. They're your board of directors. They're my boss. They're my board of directors, and we can't get things done. You're working for them. When the mayor was here yesterday, he was talking about vision. He was talking about seeing around corners. He was selling a dream to execute. And then once we pass the budget, Council President, it's the same thing, and people are frustrated. So I'm looking for the same thing. I can't get that $50,000 through, and I need your help. That's what I'm asking. I need your help. I asked Tony Tell to push it through. She pushed it down there, and we can't get it done. Since August, and that's crazy to me, through the chair to the director. So I really need your help, and I need you to, here's the other thing, ride my neighborhood with me. So you could take a look at the poverty and the abject poverty and all of that we're going through, and you could see big businesses, how they come in and they don't do my neighborhood right. Especially the new part of the Collinwood area, I need you to see it, and for you to see the big businesses. We had a judge that the big boys got rid of. They helped to get rid of her, who was just there. And I hope that this new housing court judge will go after the big boys. They helped to get rid of her, and they're going after her right now. They're going after her right now. And I know some of the people, they don't like her because of her attitude, but some of the big guys, they went after her, but I want to see if they're going to go after this new housing court judge. So you could ride our neighborhood. I'm going to invite you to visit to talk with my residents too, through the chair to the director.
Through the chair, Councilman, absolutely. Let's do that together. You know, one of the other things that we're trying to do is name and shame for landlords who don't maintain their properties. So last week, the week before, I was at Park 85 in conditions that were terrible. We brought television crews. And that's in addition to kind of what we're trying to do as attorneys. But listen, to your point is it's not enough, right? So you know, we're throwing the individual starfish back to save them, but it is a systemic problem. So I hear you, and let's find a time to get together.
So we'll get together, and I'm not going to solve it at the table, Mr. President. I just got to get together with the director and try to go at a new way, and we keep banging you and keep pushing on it, because I'm tired of getting beat up. We've been doing that since 2001. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Deborah Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I just have 4 questions per se. I want to just piggyback off on Councilman Conwell on our previous judge, who was strong-hearted with Shaker Square. That's a shout out. That was 4 years. She was strong-hearted, she was forceful, and we made it to this point. And I want to thank the law department. You guys was part of that, working with the judge, working with the residents, working with the council, working with the Morelands group. So I'm just going to shout out what Councilman Conwell said. She was forceful, she was vocal, and she did the job that she did, helping us on Shaker Square. That's why we're here today. So, and that's the type of judge that we needed. And she did her part, and we have to give her credit on that.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I would submit that you and Council President Griffin were also critical to moving
Yes.
that forward.
Yes, and I've said the two councils, but it was a team. Chair to the law director. It was a team. We couldn't do without the team that we had to get us to the point where we are today. And the Morelands group is still, leading that charge. So we had to be thankful that the judge was influential in this. So that's what I wanted to say about
Through
that.
the chair to the councilwoman, what is so difficult is that we made important changes on Shaker,
Yes.
and then even now we got a new owner, and yet there's still problems. And
There's
so
still problems. Yes.
I hear the frustration here at this table because our job doesn't end. So even when we get a win like we did, we got to keep going.
And we are keep going. Thank you, Chair, to the director. We are still going. And we know what's happening right now, but we did a lot to get to this point. And that's the prime example that most of us at this table are frustrated about because it's ongoing. We inherit these problems, and they just been inherited by other situations that had not been taken care of, because as you know that I also still continue to deal with a lot of slum, horrific landlords that doesn't even live in our community, not saying out of state, out of country, but locally. I'm dealing with local landlords who have these horrible, horrific buildings in our community that has been boarded up and still trying to put businesses in these deplorable buildings and try to be operable and think our residents supposed to come and serve and patronize businesses out these horrific, terrible buildings that they're trying to rehab. And that's even more deplorable. So I'm still dealing with that, but I'm working with building housing. I haven't gotten to your department yet because building housing is working with me 100% on some buildings that I want to have shut down. And chair to the director, to the code enforcer, Mr. Rogers, I want to extend this question to you. Since you're the code enforcer, and these buildings that have been shut down for years and years and years in our community, are the landlords cited for lead? And are they and they are cited for the lead and for rental registry, even though the building is shut down, but some of these buildings are still signed up for rental registry, and also, should they be getting the certificate every 2 years for the lead certification, even though the buildings are shut down? So, do you understand that question, Chair, to the code enforcer? Because I want to go after them for all of that.
Through the chair to the councilwoman. So here you have to do one of two things. If you're offering your building for rental, you have to get the certificate of lead safe, and you have to register it, and you have to get the certificate authorizing rental occupancy. Now, you say they're closed down. If you're a vacant building, you need to register yourself as a vacant building under the vacant building registry. And then you don't have to get lead safe in that case until you're going to open. So if you're going to demolish it, you don't have to. But if you're going to renovate it and then offer it for rental, before you offer it for rental, you have to get the three things. So they don't apply immediately to vacant buildings. The vacant registry would, but they will apply later if the building comes back.
Okay, so one incident that I'm dealing with is a building that's been vacant for at least 3 years. It has 4 different units in the building, but the building's chair to the code enforcer, but the building itself is deplorable. But the 4 units has a firewall within the wall. And the owner is actually rented out 1 unit. But the building itself is deplorable. I don't believe that they have filed for the lead certificate, and should they file for some type of, if not rental registry, what do they file for when they want to put a tenant in the building? What else do they need to file for? Chair to Mr. Rogers.
Through the chair to the councilman. So if they're renting it, they need the lead safe, the rental registration, and the certificate authorizing rental occupancy.
All right, because that's when I'm working with building
Yeah.
housing.
So they need those. If they don't have those, they can be prosecuted for not having those. And I want to urge too, the vacant property registry is to enable the city to better manage all the vacant buildings. It's not a free pass. It doesn't mean you don't have to repair or demolish your building.
Right.
So I can still prosecute you even though you're on the registry. And it's going to come as a shock to some people because they're going to think it's a shield. But it's not a shield. It's a requirement so that we can monitor you. But if you have a building like this one, let's say that 4th unit was vacant, then we can prosecute that owner and say, you have to either repair your building or demolish it. You can't leave it vacant forever. We appreciate that you registered so we know who you are and where to reach you, but you still have to repair your building. So we can go after that 4-suiter.
I think that believe that
Correct.
that's what in the process that I am dealing with right now. But thank you for clarifying what they are educating me on with particular buildings that I'm going after. Chair to the Mr. Rogers, that they've been abandoned for years. They closed up, and I believe these owners or landlords, they should be aware of the vacant certificate they're still supposed to get, regardless they've been closed and they have not done nothing to the building. Should they be aware of that, Chair to Mr. Rogers?
Yes, they should be aware of that.
Thank you. And one last question, Director, Chair to the Director. I just want to say, I just talked with Councilman Harsh about the United Way ordinance. I had no idea that ordinance was hung up in the law department because of the contract. And this brought an enlightenment to me, and I just had this personal conversation with Harsh, but I'm gonna air it. I just had a situation with a young lady that was put out of her place because she reported a slum landlord because he had lead problems in the place that she rented. Somehow she got evicted behind that because she called and reported him. She got evicted. I get a call from Mark Yoki. He's the community engagement of the St. Elizabeth Hungarian Church. That was once in Ward 4, now it's Ward 6. So he calls me up saying that the young lady needed a place to stay. So in the midst of this, he helped her with CMHA housing to file for an apartment unit, all that good stuff, but still she needed an emergency place to stay. So I called up Jay Westbrook of Morelands Group thinking that the United Way ordinance was passed, because I know the Morton Group is one of the entities that supposed to receive so much funding from it, so much every year. And Jay Rasmussen responded back, and we had a conversation all last week, and he graciously didn't tell me that that ordinance did not pass and they didn't have the funding. But he also took the young lady's name and number from me and said that he would do everything he can to assist, because that funding was supposed to provide first month rent and deposit. So I'm thinking that this is what he's working with to help the young lady, until Councilman Harsh brought this up at the table. I had to text him and say, thank you for opening up your heart, because he did not, because he didn't tell me that, that the United Ordinance didn't pass. He was like, okay, he said, okay, Councilwoman Gray, I will work with her to see how we can work with her dealing with this. Now, that opened up a uncomfortable door, whereas I just sent him a text and say, hey, thank you for helping me with this young lady, thinking that the funding is coming from the ordinance, and he took initiative to help anyway. So this is the roundabout conversation that we're dealing with, thinking that we got funding and we don't. And I'm reaching out to everybody, reaching out to me. I'm reaching out to the Mortars Group, and there's no money, but we still helping our residents to find a decent, suitable home to live in, any means necessary, without having that United, without using that United Way funding, that it was designated for. So this means a lot at this table. First, I didn't have nothing to say, but I do now. We need for the law department to do the job that it's intended to do, to help all councils in their situation. So thank you, Chair and Director. And also, I'll be remiss, thank you again for Shaker Square.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, thank you for your leadership. And then with respect to this United Way contract, my understanding is that it had been with the divisions, but I'm told that it's now set up so that United Way and their board chair will receive it at the same time to speed things up. So my understanding is that's moving forward. And listen, I appreciate that everyone thinks it's stuck in law, but sometimes these things are not stuck in law. So I think a systemic issue is who's responsible for it and who's going to push it through. So Councilwoman, Councilman, I do think that that's a question about ownership, and we have to figure that out systemically, because when it bounces back between law and the divisions, that doesn't help move things forward. So we have to do a better job with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. I think that's a very good point. Councilman Joseph Jones and then Councilman Casey to close us out.
Mr. Chairman, I left off my presentation talking about transparency and the differences between two cities, one city with two neighborhoods, two different complete neighborhoods. And then in some areas, unfortunately, it's so bad that it's like walking into a third world country here in this city. And so with that, we were talking about contracts and the law department and those contracts. And we talked about, just to rehash, we talked about who was responsible for those contracts. Now, records requests, we have a contract flow chart here. Is it possible for each one of these stations on this flow chart to have who that person is, who does the work? So it may have been requested earlier, but just want to make sure I'm saying all the questions and I'm covering it, so I may have not heard some of the comments earlier because so much has been said. So with that, if we can have that listing. Now, the next one is the local development corporations. And the reason why I'm talking about this, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, because one of the reasons why we have two different cities, and the mayor brought it out in his presentation, is that the development corporations on the east side of the city of Cleveland don't have, are not as strong as the west side part of the city in terms of local development corporations. And one of those reasons, Mr. Chairman, I submit to this table is the proposition that a lot of these development corporations are mom and pop operations. So when it takes a long time to process a contract, or there is a issue in community development on some issue of reporting, these people are waiting sometime months, 6 months, and some people even holding $1 million in their bank accounts waiting to be reimbursed from the city, and they can't wait that long. And then eventually over time, they're broken down into nothingness. And that's what we have seen on the east side of the city of Cleveland. We have operations that, even in the sense of being fair and giving those people funding over the course of time, we've seen more investments, more funding on the west side of the city of Cleveland than we have on the east side of the city of Cleveland. And one of those presentations, Mr. Chairman, was made by a gentleman who used to work in community development, Mr. Jason, who brought a chart and showed 15 billion would be being invested on the west side, and that kind of investment wasn't being invested on the east side of town. This was the previous administration of Mr. Jackson. So bringing that information out and requesting today to have those contracts so that we can review those contracts so we won't have to repeat things. If something is working on the west side of the city of Cleveland, as a member of Cleveland City Council, as an elected official, it's my responsibility to understand what that is and how we can use those same tools and same vehicles to empower the east side of the city of Cleveland to catch up. And so the request of this information is really important, Mr. Chairman, to the director. I'm very serious about it. I will keep talking about it until I get it. Hopefully I get it soon so that we can begin the proposition, because time is of urgency. We have a lot of holes on the east side of the city of Cleveland, and we need to fill those holes. If we don't fill those holes, Mr. Chairman, and my colleague Mike Polensek talked about this to great length, we're losing our population. We can't continue to close down schools and continue to have the negative impacts that are happening on the east side of the city of Cleveland without having some of these tools in our toolbox. Now, with the proposition of the local development corporations, getting back to that subject matter, how does that flow chart work? Do you have a flow chart for that? And then who's responsible for that? And how do we move in the direction to change something that has gripped this council for the last 40 years of having a problem with delivering contracts in a timely fashion and reimbursing local development corporations in a timely fashion?
Through the chair, we can put together a flow chart for some of the types of contracts that you've requested.
Well, I'm talking about specifically for local development. I don't want you to give me a blank response.
No,
I'm being specific here, Mr. Chairman, to the director. Now, you said you would be specific and be nice.
I will be as specific as I can, which is different CDCs will have different contracts for different things. So if it is federal money, it's going to have a different set of requirements than if it is general fund dollars. So a CDC may get different types of, a lead contract may be different than a rehab contract.
So let me be specific then. So, Mr. Chairman, so we won't be confused on all the various different other parts and pieces. I'm specifically talking about, and this is the biggest issue in the room, the big elephant, is HUD funding.
Yep.
And HUD funding is such a big issue. We've been hearing the talk for the last several years about not getting funding. I'm a fighter. I believe we should have every red penny, every silver nickel that we can get to empower our city and our people. So my question, Mr. Chairman, in terms of those funds, what is the flow chart? Who processes that, and how does that work?
Through the chair, we can get you a flow chart for the most common HUD programs.
I'm confused when you say, are you?
HUD,
I don't understand why you.
Because they're individual. You're asking, with all due respect, you're asking for a general response to specific questions.
Let me get even
and
more
so-
specific.
Hold on, if
there, Mr.
everybody
Chairman.
could, please run everything. through
Mr.
the
Chairman, let me get even more specific. What I'm asking for here is that each year, each local development corporation gets a contract from the city of Cleveland, correct?
Let me ask you this, through the chair. If there's a particular contract, we will absolutely get you a flow chart for that particular contract. You're requesting something that individual contracts will be, some of them will be common and then some of them will be different. But
You
but
give
if
me an
there's-
example, Mr.
if
Chairman,
if
to the
there's a
director.
specific, if there, sure. So a lead contract may be different than a storefront redevelopment project. And so without understanding, as lawyers, we look at every single case, and there are general guardrails or general procedures, but they're going to vary between the details of each one. So some we can do, and then some we can't do. And
I see.
I don't want to promise you something that I can't get to you.
So then I would ask this, Mr. Chairman. Give me what you can get, Mr. Chairman, to the director, and then let's have a follow-up meeting where I can come and take a look at how get an orientation of the program through your department.
Through the chair.
If you don't mind, if I can finish, Mr. Chairman, to the director so we can be clear.
Yep.
Because we want to be clear about this. I'm very clear about it. I didn't come down here to play around at the table. I didn't come around here to play politics. I came around here, I'm just being honest, I want folks to know this in general.
If we
I
could
came
just-
down here, Mr. Chairman, to represent my people and get results. So the question, Mr. Chairman, to the director, I don't mind you getting whatever you can get, whatever that is, I can take a look at it. But I would like to also, because it seems like it's more complicated as you're speaking here at the table, I would like to have the opportunity to review, go through your department, have an orientation, understand the other different parts and pieces. That way, when I'm sitting here at the table, I can fundamentally understand when I ask you the question about getting the contracts and flow charts, I now have a more comprehensive
Thank
understanding.
you, Councilman Director.
Through the chair, absolutely. I would ask this, which is, if there are specific contracts, that's easier for us to do than to try to generalize. So if there's a specific contract or contracts, let me know, and then we can do a flow chart for those.
Right, so the one I'm asking specifically is the general contract for HUD. So whatever the funds, we have to, Mr. Chairman, to the director.
If we could, real quick, is there a general contract for HUD?
No.
Okay, so if there is not a general contract with HUD, then what is the document that outlines the relationship between the city of Cleveland and HUD?
Yeah. So for each grant, there will be a separate set of criteria. And so that's why I'm trying to be as specific as I can, but there is no single HUD contract. So that's why I want to be responsive to the councilman and give him the information for a particular CDC or particular subgrant.
So let me do this. Councilman, would you like to have the legislation or the contract that they enter to based off of the legislation that we passed to allocate dollars for HUD?
The contract would be better. It gives me, and I
That's
don't
what I'm
have
saying.
to.
So if once we pass legislation to accept a dollar amount from HUD, there is a contract that we enter into for that allocation of dollars. Am I correct?
Yes.
Can we let the councilman see that? That is the
Sure,
one that
of course.
governs how we allocate dollars to community development corporations.
I think I understand, and I believe that we can put something together.
Councilman, would that be helpful? Is something that you look at that?
That's a
master
great
agreement?
start, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir.
It seems like, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Griffin, Mark Griffin, it seems like it's a complicated situation when we start talking about HUD. So, I know that hopefully you'll have some time for me because I have so many questions now that you've said what you've had to say. It made it seem so complicated. Now I really want to get into the weeds.
So once you get that, can you set up a follow-up meeting with the councilman? Councilman, do you have any more budget questions? so
Yes,
that we
Mr.
can-
Chairman.
We have
When
one more
we-
person
when we're
here,
showing
but we
this-
do have to hear safety today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Getting that flow chart, understanding how it works, and being able to see how we can improve that process. But before we start there, because yesterday and today, I just want people to understand I'm just asking questions. This is nothing to show any negative towards any staff people at all whatsoever. I do want to applaud the fact, and I know that the council president has stated this, the 176 contracts that your people put out versus 69 contracts is outstanding. So being able to double those contracts, I have to note, sitting here thinking about this right now, and wanted to just give kudos to, I hope I say his name right, Mr. Rich Bertovich.
Mr.
Did I say that
Bertovich,
right?
yes.
Did I say your name right? Thank you for the work you do. Sometimes you can sit back there and just get all the heat, but you do a good job. So I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge that. And Mr. George Peters, if he's a part of that 176 contracts that have been produced. And certainly look forward to working with you more. I don't know how council have worked with you in the past, but I really want to sit down and understand the process and how it works, and be able to develop the kind of contracts that can truly have a positive impact on the citizens of the First Ward. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I will yield the floor because you've asked me to in terms of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We're going to let Councilman Brian Casey will close us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, after hearing a lot for the last 4 hours, and speaking with Councilman Harsh, one thing that this council probably should look at is hiring a contracting officer. And in needs of the money to hire that contracting officer, we should just take it out of the law department's budget, because this is not working out as smoothly as people thought it would be. Mr. Chairman, to the law director, can you tell me how much is in the law department's settlement fund?
Well, we've budgeted, I believe, 5.5 million going forward.
How much?
5.5.
There's no other money, Mr. Chairman, to the law director for settlement funds except for 5.5 million?
That's what's been allocated, yep. I think this year we've spent 2.2 in 2025. So, we were able to come in significantly under budget.
All right. Mr. Chairman, to the law director, how many public records requests did you say that the law department released in 2025?
Yeah, so about 30,000. I think it's actually 29,000 and some change.
Is there any truth, Mr. Chairman, to the law director that the mayor's office of communication has to okay the public record request that you put out?
No, that's decided by law department.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, the mayor or his staff or nobody from the administration tells you what to put out and what not to put out?
They don't tell us, no. And just like we communicate with council staff, we have a public list of things that have been requested. But so the answer to your question is no. We release them based upon the determination of what's required.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, to the law director, who do you work for? Who are you? Who do you report to?
So the answer to that is I report to the mayor and to you.
That's what you say. So if I wanted to, as our chief legal counsel, if I wanted to sue the city, how would you represent me?
You as an individual, I would not.
Me as a councilman.
You as a council person, it would depend upon the case. I think we'd probably ask for outside counsel.
Okay. And speaking of outside counsel, we spent $6.5 million last year in outside counsel.
That's correct.
All right, and you've got budgeted $4 million for this year?
Yes.
And are you indicating, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, that the increase was due to the legalities with the Cleveland Browns? Did I hear you say that earlier?
Through the chair. Obviously, it's a combination of factors. The Browns were certainly an important factor, as was collective bargaining agreements, as well as our appeals at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay. In May, or I think it was May, early June of 2025, you indicated to me that you had asked to get out of the consent decree, Mr. Chairman, to the law director. Is that true?
Through the chair, absolutely.
All right. Is there any way that you can provide that request to to the court, to the council?
So those were verbal requests and conversations, but I would submit that I think we are moving forward.
I understand that, but you indicated to me that you put a formal request in to the federal monitors or to the federal judge to get out of the consent decree. And all I'm asking for is a copy of that request that you submitted to the judge.
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, no, not to the judge, but the Department of Justice and the monitor never, we have not said to the judge at this time a formal request, but we absolutely have had conversations with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice because we believe that we have satisfied the goals of the consent decree, and we believe that it's time to transition to local leadership.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the law director, in your own words, if you believe that you have satisfied the conditions of the consent decree, how come you have not then formally asked to get out of the consent decree?
We are in those conversations.
I understand you're in conversations, but why haven't you asked to get out of the consent decree then?
No.
When you led me to believe in May or June of 2025 that you had formally asked to get out.
Through the chair, I think we're having a discussion about paper versus not paper. So let me try to be as explanatory as I can. There has not been, as of today, a formal letter or a demand, but we have been involved in many communications regarding the city's belief that we have satisfied the goals of the consent decree and that we should be able to terminate the consent decree.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, when a council member puts in for information and the answer that comes back from the law department is you can't receive that information because it's client-attorney privilege. If you are responsible for the council as our legal chief counsel, who then is the client for any information that would be asked for from the council?
Sure. So through the chair. So for public lawyers, determining who your client is depends in part upon who provided the request or who provided the communication. So let me give you some examples. There are questions that council have posed to my office and requests for legal analysis. That would be, in that case, the client would be council president, or if it was someone else particular. So if you personally asked for advice, you would be the client in that case, and you would control whether that could be released or not. In terms of when we are representing the executive branch, it's the mayor who is technically the client and who can decide whether or not to waive the attorney-client privilege.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, are you telling us that if it's anything that has to do with the council side, I understand your mayor's side, but the council side, the only person that you would relieve that becomes your client is the council president?
Through the chair, no. So it depends what the request is. So if the council president, if the council president were to request a legal opinion about a particular issue, that would go to him for a decision about whether he wants to distribute it through you. If you as a group voted to request, then it would be the entire entity. But if you came to me and said, for example, there might be a subpoena, that would be representing you, and then it would be up to you to decide whether or not to release any advice that we gave you on that issue.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, if I ask for information regarding any conversation that you and Jones Day had regarding the deal with the Cleveland Browns, you would turn around and tell me that you couldn't give me that because it's client-attorney privilege.
Correct.
And
assuming, through the chair, assuming that it was in the course of legal representation, sure.
If it was what?
It would be possible that you could have communications that didn't relate to matters of law. With Jones Day, I don't know that there are any. I mean, the only reason I ever talked to them is about legal business for the city of Cleveland.
And we as council members are
actually, I will correct for 1 second. So, Mr. Herdman's son is a fencer. So sometimes we talk about fencing. So I would submit to you that those don't relate to legal advice, and that my emails to Mr. Herdman regarding his son's athletic
Nor would I
prowess-
care about that, or why I wouldn't even ask about that.
No, but you asked me whether all of them, and I said, and my answer is, if it relates to legal advice, it'll be privileged. And then I said I didn't think there was anything there, and then I was correcting myself to be clear.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, you're currently involved with another lawsuit regarding the Cleveland Browns, correct?
Through the chair, correct.
And
It's the same lawsuit, but
it's the
correct.
same, but
correct.
you know where
Correct.
I understand,
You're correct.
right? And it's the taxpayers or the representation of the taxpayers versus the Haslam Sports Group, correct?
Through the chair, Mr. Kucinich has claimed that he can represent taxpayers against the Browns.
Correct.
We don't believe that that's correct.
But I haven't asked that yet. But there is that lawsuit.
Yes,
So
there
you've
is.
got the one side and you've got the other side, correct? And Mr. Chairman, to the law director, the law department is involved in that, correct? Or we have at least hired outside attorneys or to help with that lawsuit.
Through the chair, yes.
And which side of the table is our law department sitting on? The taxpayer side or the Haslam Sports Group side?
Through the chair, the answer is the law department is on the side of the city of Cleveland. Mr. Kucinich has not been permitted yet to bring a taxpayer claim. That's part of the argument right now. And so the claim is that the settlement agreement that was approved by the city, including city council, in other words, is not appropriate or not valid. We don't believe that Mr. Kucinich has standing to bring a taxpayer claim.
No, and I'm not going to argue the case here, but the point that I'm getting is that you're not on the side of the taxpayers, you're on the side, or the legal team is on the side of the Haslam Sports Group in saying that the lawsuit is not valid, correct? Instead of just letting it play out, the city has interjected itself into, because a judge hasn't ruled. But the point is, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, we're not on the side of the taxpayers in this case.
Through the chair, absolutely not. We are on the side of the taxpayers because we will have to pay for Mr. Kucinich's legal fees or others. We are also on the side of the taxpayers because we are required to defend our settlement agreement that was approved and passed by this entity. So absolutely not.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the law director, speaking of the settlement agreement, how long did it take you, since we've spent 4 hours talking about contracts and can't get them out the door and CDCs are owed money from 2022, how long did it take you to draw up and get that piece of legislation before the council?
Through the chair to the councilman, I think it's about 45 days, which is about what our average is.
So you mean to tell me, and I remember the time frame, from the time that the mayor announced that there was a settlement, correct, to when you had that drawn up was only 45 days?
Through the chair,
or was 45
through
days?
the chair to the councilman. Let me just say, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but my recollection is that it was announced in October. Let me just say, I know that we had at least 30 days of discussions and then there was more time afterwards. So I don't recall exactly what those dates are, but I could look those up and get those.
Because I remember, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, the first city council hearing regarding that, and that was, everything was already done on the law department's side for that. So if you could move that quick for some things, the question is, when you represent the council as well, how come you can't move that quickly on other things?
So let me through the chair, let me respond to a couple issues. One is, oftentimes the hardest part is getting the other party to agree. So how fast a contract can go through. Remember, the negotiations for the Brown settlement actually took 2.5 years. The drawing it up was relatively quickly after that. In terms of, we'll count the days, but my recollection is it's somewhere in the 30 to 45 day range. So I think that you're not quite counting the right way, because when we enter into negotiations, it can take months to get a deal done before it comes to the law department for being written up on paper.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, since you don't believe I know how to count, what I do know is this, is that you just indicated that you have been negotiating that deal for 2.5 years, and this council passed legislation ordering you not to go through a deal. So, in sitting here and telling us one thing, and then the law department is doing another thing, you're misrepresenting the council. Hang on, you're misrepresenting the council. Anything that the mayor would ask or the administration would ask, you would jump through hoops to get done, i.e. the deal with the Browns. But when this council asks you to get a simple contract for our CDCs through, you want to hand us a piece of paper where we've got to jump through hoops for years and years and years. According to the charter, you are chief legal counsel for the city, for the mayor and Cleveland City Council. That's not happening. You are not representing Cleveland City Council the way you should be. I.e., I stood on the floor of Cleveland City Council a couple of weeks ago, and I believe that your position should be an elected position, that you do not have the capability of representing both the administration, the council, and the taxpayers of the city of Cleveland all with an equal level. I think that you're appointed by the mayor, which is who you report to, which is who you are responsible to. And I think everything else takes a back seat to that. You can sit here and thank us all you want, but that's the reality of what we've lived with under the tenure of you being the law director.
Through the chair to the councilman. First of all, I don't agree with what you just said, but I do respect you, and I want you to know that I would hope that I would get that same respect in return. Let me talk directly about, particularly since we brought up the Browns, how I handle my job, which is to say, I'm going to give people what I believe to be the legal advice, even if they don't like it. So let me start with a couple things. Number one, the mayor asked early on, is there an ability for the city of Cleveland to keep the Browns playing beyond the course of the lease? He may have wanted to hear that, and I said no. Wait, let me finish.
Hold on. If we could, I'm not going to rehash this debate over the Brown Stadium deal. I'm going to let you make, because I allowed Councilman Casey to get finished. I'm going to let you make your final statement. This is supposed to be about the budget, and it has veered off into what went wrong with the Browns contract. I'm going to allow your final statement, but then I will, on the realest back end, if Councilman Casey has any final
and I don't want to debate that either.
Okay, through the chair.
Just go ahead.
Every day we say no to the administration. On the Browns in particular, there was a question about whether council had to approve that or not, or whether the administration or me personally could do that. I said this was council's priority, even though that may have cut against the interest of the mayor. It cut against my interest as the law department, because the next day there were former law directors who said, no, Mark Griffin could have signed this himself without the city council approval. But I read the law to say that you had the power, not the mayor, not me. And so I will tell you that I will tell you what the law is, whether that affects the mayor or myself. So
All right,
that's what I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, the law director, my last point on this one is October 13th is when the mayor announced the release. October 17th is when you introduced the piece of legislation to council. 4 days. Just saying. Another question, Mr. Chairman, to the law director. In all the money that we have spent on outside professional legal services or contractual services, do you, as the law director, assure that none of the contracts that we hire through the city of Cleveland make political donations to anybody who's an elected official? Is that just something that you oversee?
Yes, we are required by law that any non-bid contracts cannot go to anyone who's made a contribution in the mayor's campaign in the 2 calendar years preceding.
Okay, and then since you said it, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, what happens if somebody does make a political contribution and they do have a contract?
We're not permitted to enter into a contract. So what happens is, at the beginning of the process, we have them sign a verification that they have not made those contributions. I don't know what happens if they do so afterwards. I think that might be a question that we would look into.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the law director, do you know how many cases the prosecutor has DWAP'd last year?
I do not offhand, but
Does our Madam Prosecutor know? Doesn't know? Okay. And then do you believe that the staffing level going from 15 to 20 is appropriate
With
for
respect-
assistant prosecutors?
through the chair, yes, I do.
And earlier you mentioned what a great job the prosecutor's office was doing because we gave you the authority to open it up and do this. So if they're doing such a great job at this current level and they only have 12, why do they need for 8 more?
Through the chair, we're required by the county to cover time periods from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight. So we had to add those shifts in order to handle them.
But you're doing that now, Mr. Chairman, to the law director, correct? And you're doing it with the staff of 12.
No. We're doing it with a staff of 20.
Why do we only say 12 is budgeted here? Or your staffing level in 2025 actual is 12?
There were vacancies at one point, but so there were vacancies during the course of the year in which there were times when we didn't have prosecutors in courtrooms because there was natural turnover. But no, I think we have the numbers that we need.
All right, and then my last question, Mr. Chairman, is Mr. Chairman to the law director, do you believe 5.5 million is going to be enough for judgment damages and claims?
Through the chair, I hope it's more than enough.
Okay, and then Mr. Chairman to the law director, I'll leave you with this. The law department has failed the council, and you have a lot of great people that are working for you, and every time we reach out individually, they do everything they can to bend over backwards to help us. But as the mayor said yesterday, the buck stops with him, and within the law department, the buck stops with you as well, and it should be. And I hope you feel the frustration of the council today and the lack of attention that we receive when it comes to getting just our basic stuff done and out the door. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Before I gavel, I do want to say one more thing to the law director. I know there was a lot of questions around GovQA, and I do want to just say this. Is that investigation that you had still ongoing, or is it deceased and stopped?
To the chair, it is deceased and stopped. We want to have a collaborative relationship going forward. We've taken some steps to make sure that what happened before doesn't happen again, but we just want to move on, and we want to work with you.
I agree. We want to be partners and move forward and collaborate. And I know that our attorneys have met with your team, and hopefully we can make sure that our team has access to GovQA. But there was an employee on our side that actually had some rough days behind that. And I know that people might have whatever opinions they have of him, but I think it was not fair for him to, be posterized like he was. So I just want to make sure that I state that. Okay. All right. I'm going to gavel, and then what I'm going to say is that we're going to reconvene at 1 o'clock sharp, and then we're going to turn the gavel over to Councilman Michael Polensek, and Councilman Michael Polensek will run all of the safety issues. Once again, to all the law department, thank you. I know this is a lengthy hearing, but thank you for all the work that you do. Have a great day.